We are live.
Hello?
We're live right by your head, sir.
Oh, also, thanks a million for those Signal Mountain scores. That was really, I mean, the thing's wacko.
Which is why I know very little about how all that testing stuff is done.
And here's, the NOLA teachers said they were devastated. I said, I didn't put the number out there. But anyway.
You got 5 minutes and you can't be about to leave.
You'll like this.
But I am going to give it a problem.
Lost my water.
But I mean, I'm coming.
On the other side, why did I?
I knew I put it down somewhere. Thank you. Okay.
I know. That one.
You want to make last week for me?
I'm saying, Dan said you can bring to school, so he got the money for this. You sent it to me today? Jones _ Caritza? Which one you sent it to? Was it Jones or Mo? Was it my name? Or Mosley?
It's HCDE, whatever.
Let me go see. I'll go look and see.
Anyway,
I read your article though. What you talking about?
this is a different thing. Joanne
Let me go back and check my email.
It's an attachment.
supposed to send a link to. Seriously. After I posted, I have to send a bazillion people the link to it. I'm trying to remember who all.
Okay. The regular session is called, in order to start, please. Roll call, Ms. Ford.
Chairman Highlander,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jones, here. Mr. Galloway,
Here.
Mrs. Lennon,
Here.
Mrs. Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Testerman,
Here.
Mrs. Thurman,
Here.
Mr. Wingate,
Here.
Mr. Jones, Superintendent Johnson.
Here.
May I say, Mr. Smith is on his way, but he has been detained, and he will be on his way. Okay. First order of business is the election of officers for next year, for the coming year. Do I hear a motion for nomination?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Carissa Mosley Jones as chairman of the board next year.
Okay, we've got a motion, we hear a second.
I second.
We've got a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Steve Highlander for chairman, please.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, Mr. Bennett, if that's, nominations are closed, will you call please for the vote?
Would you want me to, or just the secretary?
Or Ms. Ford, either of them. Ms. Parliamentarian, I thought you might.
I'd be happy to, sure.
Do we discuss this at all before we vote? We just vote.
You are welcome to discuss, if you'd like.
Sure.
Well, I just wanna make a comment. This is my 8th year on the board, and, Roddy, you've been here longer than David, you've been here as long as I have, so you helped me out here. When we've, for a few years, we had the same chairman, and I think vice chairman was the same a few years, and it's changed sometimes. I was just under the impression, because that's the only access I'd ever had to it, that if the vice chairman wanted to be in there, that we just put them in there. And for a while they didn't. So am I lost there, or is that just, it never really came up. That's just the impression I got. And so my question would be, is Ms. Jones interested in doing this?
I never knew that was a rule.
I didn't see it as being a rule. I just assumed that's kind of how we've done it.
Not really.
Okay.
No.
I'm okay. I just want to make that comment. I didn't know. And I'll say that too, with this thought, Dr. Highlander, you were a trooper this year. I mean, I don't have a problem with you doing it again. You worked hard and did a great job. I just kind of thought that's what we did, and if that's not correct, then I'm out of line there.
I would comment, I'm willing to serve again, but if Ms. Jones is elected, I will support her to the hill. So. Ms. Ford? Or either way. Parliamentarian?
When I go call the roll, if you would, just please cast your vote for Ms. Mosley Jones or Dr. Highlander. Mr. Galloway?
Yes, I'll vote for Ms. Jones.
Ms. Robinson?
Jones.
Ms. Thurman?
Highlander.
Ms. Jones?
Jones.
Mr. Smith?
Dr. Highlander.
Ms. Lennon?
Jones.
Mr. Testerman? Dr. Highlander?
Highlander.
Okay, I'm the rookie. Who did I call? Mr. Galloway? Actually, I called you. All right, sorry. Wingate, sorry.
Dr. Highlander.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 5-4 in favor of Dr. Highlander. And this is now why I do not typically call the roll.
May I make a nomination for vice chair?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Ms. Jones to serve as vice chair for another year if she's willing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Do we have any others, or we go by acclamation? by acclamation, if so, say aye. 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 Thank you very much. Moving on.
Mr. Chairman, the TLN representative,
Pardon?
the Tennessee
TLN.
Legislative Network representative.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Do we have nominations for that? Mr. Testament has been serving that? But he is not willing, not able to do it again this year? So would someone else like to serve? You want someone else to do it? David, thank you for your service for, how many years have you done this? 7 years. 7 years. Let's give him a hand for that. Okay, we can nominate or we can take volunteers at either one. David, could you tell what this service entails just briefly, please?
Just try to. It does entail a few meetings, especially during time of conferences, or if you're over for various trainings that you meet with the legislative representatives, the school board association. But pretty much you want to make a few trips to Nashville to meet with those who are sponsoring various laws that pertain to education. You try to keep the school board informed with new laws that are coming down. That's a lot easier because we get so many emails about them. You know about them as soon as I do. You also, with their large school network, you have a close relationship with them, especially anytime that you visit the Nashville area. Especially twice a year, you'll meet with them and just have discussions. It's a lot of fun. I'm an educator. Fun is a questionable thing.
You're making it sound very enticing.
To a nerdy guy, it's really a lot of fun.
Do we have any nominations? If not, I'll ask for volunteers.
I nominate Kathy Lennon.
I would like to second that nomination. Thank you. Do we have any other nominations? No? Then we'll go by acclamation. No, I said, do we have other nominations? I won't do that hurriedly. If it's by acclamation, if so, say aye. Aye. So moved. Thank you very much. I have received, now are we ready to move on, sir? Thank you, Mr. Brown. I have received the following request to amend the agenda. Under Roman numeral 6, recognitions and presentations, change to partnership zone. Dr. Candace McQueen's emissary will be coming for us and deliver all items of the following. Ms. Laura Inquilad will be representing the commissioner. Add items G, Chattanooga Inclusive Education, Opportunities Action Teams Plan, Dr. Justin Robertson. Under Roman numeral 7, Delegations, add B, Neil Placer. I hope did I say that correctly? Okay, Neil Placer, CSLA representative. Under item number 9, approval of consent agenda, field trips, add C, career and technology, John Maynard. Under Roman numeral 10, administrative business matters, add D, request for new positions, chief of staff and community engagement specialist, Stacy Stewart. Add E, request for new positions, Title IV, Stacy Stewart. Add F, bus driver 1, background check issues. Add G, bus driver 2, background check issues. Add H, letter H, McRail, balanced leadership proposal. Under item 12 of events and announcements, add under A, board retreat, Creative Discovery Museum, change F to October 19th. Thursday, board meeting and board pictures, 3 to 5 p.m. And add letter G to October 20th, Friday, report calls. That is all. Now, Do we have approval of the agenda?
Yeah, one more delegate, the one that signed up.
One more, oh, I'm sorry, there's one more delegate sign up, excuse me. Donald Jacobson, Crystal Lake Ildewa, organization, Newton Springs, and we have one more delegate we're looking for to this delegate as well. Yes, sir. Pardon?
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else before we go to the approval of the agenda? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
I move to approve.
A second?
Second. All in favor? No, good. Do we have anything we need to pull before we do that? Okay. We need to talk about it.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Okay. Earlene Weeks, the principal at Allen Elementary, will give the meditation to lead the pledge to the flag.
Chairman Highlander, school board directors, and Superintendent Dr. Johnson. I would like to take a few moments for us to think about and reflect upon the responsible citizenship in action, being that our country celebrated this past Sunday, September the 17th, Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. Why is the U.S. Constitution the world's longest surviving written charter of government? Why is the preamble to the Constitution our touchstone for running our country? How can we use the first three words of the preamble, we the people? How can that exist to serve its citizens? These are conversation starters for our students as we celebrate this National Day. Governor Haslam has signed on May the 4th, 2017, Public Chapter number 279, for observance of Celebrate Freedom Week. It states in part, to educate students in grades kindergarten through 12 about the sacrifices made for freedom in the founding of this country and the values upon which this country was founded. The week of September 17th and annually thereafter is designated as Celebrate Freedom Week to honor Constitution Day in all public schools in Tennessee. Each educational institution that receives federal funds for a fiscal year is required to hold an education program about the U.S. Constitution for its students. It goes on to say students should study and recite two statements in the Declaration of Independence that sums up our philosophy of freedom. In Hamilton County, we must let our students know that our quality of life is based on our quality of choices we make each day. Responsible citizenship should be evident in everything we say and do. We should all strive to be good citizens in our words and actions, and that means sometimes putting others before ourselves, especially when they've been people impacted by catastrophic events such as earthquakes, floods, and hurricanes. We can all do something. Our students must know the importance of responsible citizenship in action. One way they can think about their actions, and they don't have to wait for a catastrophic event, is to know that kindness matters. In our day-to-day interactions, as one wise saying, kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thoughts creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates gratitude, respect, and love for others. For this week of celebrating our freedom, let us think about how we can give back to the country that has given us so much, and to always remember the sacrifices that have been made for all of us. Thank you, school board directors and Dr. Johnson. We appreciate all you do to help our students stay engaged and promoting citizenship. With these thoughts, let us stand and pledge allegiance to our American flag. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just for the record, she is in my district. Just saying her name.
Now we're going to recognitions and presentations. First, Ms. Laura Ankilad, I hope I said it correctly, will be here. She's representing Dr. Candace McQueen, and you have in front of you, the board, members of Dr. McQueen's proposal about the partnership zone, and hopefully you've had a chance to look over it. Would you like to make an opening statement, and then we'll ask you some questions if people have any.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Highlander and members of the board. So the slides that you have in front of you are a version of information that the commissioner has shared as she's met with each of you individually over the last few months, and we wanted to provide that for you today as we knew this partnership zone was an item for discussion on the board agenda, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up during the discussion.
Does anyone have any statements or questions about anything you look over for a minute? We won't leave her standing too long, but we'll let her wait a minute or two.
I'm happy to sit down and come back up with you.
Steve, I have something out of
Ms. Thurman?
it's questionable to me. I guess the funding of this has been one of our main concerns. Let's see, it says all funding estimates are contingent upon the availability of federal and state funds. Estimates are based on a total of 5 priority schools. Changes in the number of priority schools will impact available funding. I guess there's 2 questions there. How can we be assured that there is gonna be money there and that we're not gonna be stuck with some, maybe programs that get started and that we're gonna have to come up with the money to fund these programs? That doesn't give me very much comfort, knowing that the money, if y'all don't have the money, we don't get the money, and we're gonna be stuck with the programs and nothing to pay for them with. And then it says, changing in the number of priority schools will impact available funding. Does this say that you may take even more schools over during this time and put them in here? Is that what that's saying? Then you're just gonna take that same amount of money, no more money's gonna come, there's not even more money gonna come with additional schools if they're added, is that correct?
So to answer your first question, so what the commissioner stated is that the state is committed to, through a combination of state and federal funds, to put forth an investment of $3.2 million in the 5 priority schools this year should the board decide to move forward with a state intervention of the partnership zone. So we're prepared to put forward that investment, and then what we would do through the next several months is we develop the contract that would put in place all the terms and conditions of the partnership zone. That contract would then state the specific funding for the next 5 years, and that would be passed, that would be presented to the board once legislation on the partnership zone is passed by the General Assembly. So all of the financial commitments would be detailed in that contract for the next 5 years.
So I know we know politicians come and politicians go. So if you give us the funding, but could a new legislature could come and say, no, we're gonna completely redo this whole thing, maybe maybe even a new education commissioner would come on board. We just need some kind of commitment, I guess, that, and I don't know how you would hardly do that, but then if a new commissioner came on and said they didn't wanna do this, where does that leave us?
So that's why we wanted to work with the board to do this in partnership, to have a joint option that both the board and the department are putting forth together and are looking to codify that through legislation and through a contract to make that agreement as solid and binding.
Ms. Robinson, did you have any other comments or questions?
I do.
Mr. Wingate?
So, I guess for clarification, and here's kind of where I struggle a little bit with this, and I've had a lot of people ask me about this, and I heard a great comment, from 40,000 feet, this looks like a no-brainer, right? But I think, speaking for myself, where I struggle with this is, if we chose not to go the partnership route and the two schools that are eligible to go into the ASD go into the ASD, then the ASD is completely accountable for the performance of those two schools. If we choose to go into the partnership, now we are pulled into being an accountability partner there. And the shared governance, if it's not on equal footing, so tie breaks are going the way of the Tennessee Department of Education, but yet we're held accountable for those. Does that make sense? And so that's my struggle there. It does look like a no-brainer from 40,000 feet, but again, when we start to talk about the financial commitments, asking us to enter into talks is essentially what this is, so that we're agreeing to talk about something we, when it comes to the financial part here, and a big part of this after year zero, the planning year, and year one is all federal. Those are all federal dollars, right? And so we have no guarantee of those federal dollars. We have a prediction, a projection of what that would be. And so again, as I stated to the commissioner when I had my opportunity to meet with her, I know that these numbers weren't pulled at random out of the air. There are services that are in mind, and resources in mind that these dollars are wrapped around. And so if those dollars aren't there, then again, what happens to the services, that are intended to help the performance of those schools? And so I just want the public to understand that we're concerned about the fact that to be pulled in and asked to be an accountability partner, and partner is the word that's used, but yet at the end of the day, it's not an even partnership. That's a little tough to swallow. And so, I don't know, you want to make any comments to that, or?
I would just reiterate what I know the commissioner shared with you before, is that she's committed to approaching these appointments and in partnership with the board, looking at recommendations that you all have, undergoing a thorough vetting process, and ensuring that 100% of those board members are reflective of the Hamilton County community. That is a commitment that she's restated numerous times, and that she intends to absolutely hold to if you all decide to move forward with this.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lehman?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this the partnership can't take place unless they change legislation. Isn't that correct?
Yes, so what we're asking for the board for now is a commitment to continue the conversation, to develop a contract. We would pursue legislation in coordination with Hamilton County to be presented this legislative session. If passed, then we would move forward with the board voting on the contract that we've worked throughout this fall and winter to develop the terms for.
So, but what if it's not passed? Because that, we all know that's not a guarantee.
So the other option that is available to the commissioner is to place schools into the Achievement School District.
So, really, that's we don't really know, because they don't meet, that they wouldn't meet to vote on this until.
It would be until the spring.
Right.
I will say that the idea of the partnership zone came from conversations in Hamilton County, through conversations with the previous leadership in the district. It was asked of the department to think about what another option or alternative to full state intervention or our Achievement School District might look like. And so as a result of those conversations, we went back to our planning and developed a partnership zone option or a shared governance option that could be offered in cases where the schools met certain criteria, like being in the same feeder pattern or things like that. And so this is a new option that's available under our ESSA plan that we're working to pursue in state law, but it would be an option that is an alternative to the Achievement School District.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Testerman and Ms. Robinson.
Yes,
my feelings about this are, number one, it just rubs me wrong whenever the word takeover is used, because these are our schools. They belong to this local community. And yes, they have been schools of low performance for many years, And it's a broken system, no doubt, but I'd say this, the state system's as broken as ours is. Tennessee has not provided us resources and help over the past number of years to make a significant change in these schools, and I don't see that going any better. I think we've had a broken partnership in the past, and I don't see that changing. It just behooves me that you would even want to have a partnership with us since we failed these schools. We need somebody that's going to come in and can show us how to do it, since we can't do it. And I have a problem with it because we have no idea where it's going to lead. I do not see a great record for the schools that you've taken over so far. And I think it's just not the right thing to do. I think we have to approach it in a way that if the state law is right now that you can take them over, until that law is changed, we do what we're currently doing, and perhaps we can awaken this community to realize that we are about to lose not just our control, but we're going to lose our schools, and we may never get them back. We may never get them back. And I hate to see it where it's finally done in this country that the state's going to take over your local schools. That just rubs me wrong. I just have a real problem with it.
One of the things, Dr. Johnson's next.
Yeah, one thing I think is really important to clarify is that the board has established an opportunity zone that has aligned federal dollars and resources to provide the additional support for 12 schools that we have, knowing that we have probably 15, 16 schools that need additional layers of support. We're very excited about that work that's taking place right now. Any level of partnership would happen within the construct of the opportunity zone as additional layers of support for those 5 schools. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We obviously viewed very positively the steps that the board and the district have taken to establish the new opportunity zone, and absolutely believe that this partnership zone could work in tandem and further support the efforts of the district as you embark on the opportunity zone work.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson, I believe, and
Sure.
then Mr. Smith, then Ms. Thurman.
I said,
She
yeah.
yielded to Dr. Johnson.
Technically, with the latest test scores, technically all 5 of our schools could go to could be funneled into the ASD. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out. I know Mr. Wingate mentioned 2, but technically we're at a place where actually all 5
Yes.
would be funneled into ASD. Okay. So I guess at this point, we've got to make a decision really soon. If not, are we making a decision today? Are we voting today?
We have not put it on the agenda to vote today. No one asked for it to go on the agenda to vote today.
Okay. Is the state expecting us to vote today?
Yes, that was our impression, is that
I
the
spoke
board
to
will be
Dr.
voting
McQueen
today.
yesterday and today, and she said, "Are you gonna vote?" And I said, "No one has made the request for us to vote." I said, obviously we can if that's the overwhelming wish of the board, but we'd take a special. I think most people, normally when this happens, and we don't have to do this, most people want to look over and digest things a little bit longer, and we would have to have, if we vote not tonight, and we do it in the immediate future, we need to have a special kind of session, which we could do probably next week sometime if we chose to. Now no one has mentioned yet, with Mr. Bennett's help, I had crafted one that I sent to resolution I sent to Dr. McQueen that answered some of the questions that some people might want to look at, but I think you all have copies of that also. Ms. Robinson, go
I
ahead.
believe that last month, whenever Commissioner McQueen was here, she said that she expected us to vote in September. Am I the only person that heard that? Okay.
Ma'am, she did not make a formal request, and, if she said, "Will you please vote?" then we would do that. She said, the way I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I hope you will vote, but I did not understand that was the will of the entire board, and so we didn't put it on there. But now, it can be, if the majority of the board want to vote tonight, Mr. Parliamentarian, help me here, please, sir.
I don't like being asked to vote for something if I'm not prepared, so that is certainly not what I'm requesting. I think that ultimately, I'm incredibly frustrated at this point. I represent one of the districts that every single child in that district is affected by this decision. And I certainly am not trying to make this about me or about my district, but at this point, we have discussed these matters over and over and over again. And Dr. Johnson and the commissioner, I believe, have worked very well together to come to an agreement. And I don't want the ASD to come in. I do not want these schools to be turned over to the ASD. I understand that, people have different feelings about that, but, I've spent a lot of time in the community talking to my constituents about this. I've been doing this since May or April. Caritza and I, we've been trying to correct what the public views this as. We've been trying to negotiate with the commissioner. We've been working with Dr. Johnson on this. I'm not sure how much longer you're going to give us to make a decision. And so I just think that at this point, it's our responsibility to make a decision, a well-informed decision, which we have had time to make that well-informed decision, and we need to make that decision really soon because we've got to start work on this. If we're not going to keep our schools and we're not going to go into a partnership, well then we need to let the ASD come in and they need to be able to start their work on these schools because there are 5,000 children's lives and education that are at stake. And so I'm going to be really honest, I'm super frustrated that we're not voting today. I'm not saying that we need to because if everyone else isn't ready, that's fine, but I have waited a really long time to vote on this. And I spent a lot of hours educating myself on the options and talking with almost every single one of you about this. So that is my piece. I have nothing else to add because every single question that I've asked over the last 5 months has been answered on this. And I just don't even see what else you could possibly answer for us at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Sermon.
Yes, I just had a real quick question. The schools that the state has taken over, the ASD schools, how long have you had some of them?
So the ASD first started intervening in schools in the 2012-13 school
Okay,
year.
have any of those districts gotten their schools back?
So the ASD, the way that legislation is written, the ASD can only hold schools for a period of 10 years, and so at that point, schools would start to transition back.
So we're either looking at a contract for 5, or you take some of them over for 10. Yeah, that's
Possibility of 10
basically what
years,
we're looking
yes.
at then.
That's correct, yes.
And I don't mind telling you, the track record of the ASD is not something that I desire for our schools. I'll tell you, I'm like David, I don't like either one of the options, but of the two options, I'm having to defer to Caritza and to Tiffany on this. This is their district, and I have talked to Tiffany at quite length about this. And like I say, it's their district, and if it was my district, I would expect them to show me the same consideration. But if you talk to your thing, I'm ready to vote, but it's up to the rest of you because I just don't like the fact of the state taking these schools over for 10 years. I just don't want to.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
You've got a tough role tonight, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the effort that your office, Dr. Queen, has put into the energy and talking to all of us and explaining to us, and like Ms. Tiffany just explained, the willingness to answer questions. I tell you, I've agonized over this, and I've been opposed to it from the start. I remain opposed to it today, and whether we vote today it really doesn't matter to me. My vote's still going to be no. And the reason I've struggled so much, I've spent my entire adult life, raising children that are in state custody. I've run programs that have been funded by the State Department of Education. And the one thing that I've learned over 25 years is about the time that we understand how to do something, then the state changes it. And so I'm real concerned, it's already been mentioned, and my colleague, Mr. Wingate, said it a whole lot more eloquently than I have the ability to, is that, another year from now, we're going to have a new governor and most likely a new commissioner, and quite likely maybe new senators or representatives in from our county. I don't know. But that just scares me, and I'm opposed to giving up the governance of our schools to the state of Tennessee that your record hadn't been very good. And so, Mr. Chairman, whether we vote tonight or not, my vote's gonna be no, but I would really like to hear, I'm still confused. I love what Dr. Johnson has presented to us about the opportunity zone. I would just really like to know where he stands. I'm not sure that I clearly understand, Dr. Johnson, where you stand in terms of the partnership zone. You know, we hear and read different things, but maybe I'm not real clear. Where do you stand with this?
Would you rather wait till the last, till everyone has made their comments and you have the summation, or would you like to go now? I've been waiting for a long time. I want to say too, I think all of us, every single one of us care about every single child in this county. I mean, including those in those 5 schools. Now, I was somehow under the misunderstanding that only 2 of those would be automatically taken into the ASD. Was I incorrect?
So we would move forward in the 2018-19 school year with placing at least 2 schools into the Achievement School District.
At least 2, right.
Mm-hmm.
That was my understanding.
But all 5 are eligible for the ASD.
Right, it would open the door for the others. I mean, I am very interested in every child, and I mean, I think all 9 of us, plus Dr. Johnson and staff, care very much, and we appreciate what he's done, and Dr. McQueen's expressed pleasure with what he's crafted. He and his staff have crafted the opportunity zone, and I've asked her on a couple of occasions, would she consider giving him a year to try that opportunity zone with those schools, and she has said that she would not, that, you know, the failures of the past, you know, have forced us to go into that. It's my understanding, correct?
Yes, the 2 options that we're currently working towards are either the partnership zone or full state intervention with the ASD.
And one thing I crafted, with Mr. Bennett's help, I did craft an instrument saying that if the partnership was not fully funded, that having background in education law and family members who are attorneys, I look at things, and I was also a little bit disturbed by by the wording of this. All funding estimates are contingent on the availability of federal and state funds. And we know those funds aren't always available. I am not impugning Dr. McQueen's integrity. She is an honest woman. She's doing what she thinks, you know, can be done. But when she's gone, I'm not sure what the others will do, as some of the others have said. She is definitely an honest, hardworking, very intelligent woman. But if it's not in black and white, it's hard to know. By the way, I did want to say, do we have any legislators other than Senator Gardenhire here? I know he is here. Is there any other legislators? Sure. But okay, we want to recognize you, sir. Thank you for being here. We all care about every child, and we're trying. We have different ideas, but we want what's very best. And we thank you for standing before this body. And I want to know, we have several people in our community have strongly suggested that we have a 5-year plan for wise economic stewardship of the county and state funds that we're receiving. And we're looking at that, and we're looking at a very tight budget. We have great needs, and I'm very thankful for what the commission and the Mayor Coppinger have done. They're a very courageous move they've done to give us some funds that we can possibly make some changes with. But I'm looking at if something happened to part of this $10.2 million, where would we get the money from? It is a concern. I'd like to see it in concrete. I made the suggestion that if we enter this and then we drop out, then we take over full control of the schools. And if somehow it can't be maintained, that it comes back, that we wouldn't fall on us. Also, if the state has majority governance, I requested that. Now, correct me on the Achievement School District. Where are the results of that? Are they reported with, say, Shelby County and Nashville Metro, or are they reported with the ASD?
They're reported separately as the Achievement School District.
And I made the suggestion that if we are equal partners in governance, that we take their scores on, you know, with ours. But I also said if they have majority, if the state has majority governance, they go on their own district rather than with ours. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, were there not some of the ASD schools who were turned back over to Shelby County?
That is fully the intent, is to turn the schools from the Achievement School District back over to the home district, but they can remain in the Achievement School District for a period of up to 10 years.
Right, okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I got mine in. I'm not sure who's next, Mr. Galloway or...
Well, I too came tonight prepared to vote under the assumption we were gonna vote tonight. Even though if you put on, I would probably suggested to be put on. Mr. Robinson makes a great point. You know, first of all, as probably most people in this room that have had to make decisions, sometimes you have to make them with neither choice being the most favorite, but you have to come up with one because you have to make a decision. I just think what Mr. Robinson says about getting started right away, if we get started right away on this, I think we have a much better chance of getting funding in the future because we're going to be able to show some results quicker. The longer we put it off, the worse we are, I believe. So I don't like either option, but I would not take the ASD option. So I just want to say that.
Ms. Jones?
Well, I completely concur with Tiffany. This has been a very long road for the board. For those 5 schools, this has been an even longer road. And I know just as Tiffany has worked, she and I both have worked, and we've worked together and separately, and we've been on campaigns across this district, and I'm very excited about the work we got accomplished last year under our team we had last year, and I'm really excited about the opportunity zone and what can go forth with that. But I'm a very straightforward person. And so I try to be very real with myself. And even though I wasn't here and I didn't hold the bag, I got left holding the bag. And here we are. And a lot of us weren't here when the bag was being held and passed down like hot potato and nothing was happening. And people were in those schools working and things weren't happening the way they could have. But we are all left here holding this bag. Now, what we do with the bag is very important. How we secure it and how we move forward is very important. And we do have the lives of children and their legacies and their intellect in our hands. And we have to do what is right. Morally, economically, we have to do what is right. And it's not, I personally, and the commissioner knows this, and she and I, the rapport we have now is not the rapport we started with. But she knows how I feel about things, and to me, personally, I feel like we got 2 evils. So I'm trying to pick the lesser of the 2 evils. Because we gotta do something about these kids. And I think that we have a great plan in place for Opportunity Zone. It's already working. We have to figure out what to do from a state aspect, because the state is telling us that they have to do something legally to address what has not been done here. So I feel like we gotta do some type of compromise, and we gotta do that. And I do applaud Dr. Johnson and his team, and Dr. McQueen and her team, and everybody here. But I too, like Tiffany, feel like I've asked a lot of questions. I've had a lot of sleepless nights. I've sent a lot of emails. I've answered a lot of questions. My integrity's been questioned in public by people all trying to fight for these kids. And I'm just not in a position anymore for us to just keep kicking the can down the road. The can's been kicked for over 15 years. Now, at this point, and I'm talking to my board members, I think we have to do what is right. And I too came prepared today to vote, because I felt like we have to just do it. We're either gonna vote it up, or we're gonna vote it down, and we're gonna move forward for whatever happens at that point. But we gotta do something. Now, my charge to the board is this. The ASD was a piece of legislation. The partnership zone will have to be a piece of legislation. We vote every 2 to 4 years for people to represent us on a state level that are supposed to be enacting legislation to support our kids. So the ASD is an epic fail, and we know it is an epic fail. No disrespect to the commissioner. She know I've said that. It's not allowed. But the ASD is an epic fail. It's not doing what it needs to do, and we know that. The partnership zone is an unknown territory, and we may or may not be going down that uncharted territory. But we also have an opportunity for the people that represent us to enact legislation that could counteract or repeal any of this that we know doesn't work. So now our job as the advocates for these kids in Hamilton County is to advocate on their behalf to the people that we elected to represent us to give us something better than the ASD and clearly the partnership if everybody doesn't vote for it. But there's an accountability piece there, and I've started with my representative. She and I went toe to toe. And we have conversations and we agree to disagree, and it's all out of respect. But I've already started there with asking her about legislation. So I think at this point we gotta pick the lesser of 2 evils, vote it up or vote it down, and then start advocating for our kids. And if who's representing us ain't working, then guess what? Just like we're elected, they are too.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Johnson.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I appreciate the comments of every member of the board. I've been in roughly 30-some school days, and I've enjoyed all of them. So this is really fun. So here's the reality. Here's the reality. We have to have a sense of urgency about what we do for our kids. And we've responded with a sense of urgency by implementing an opportunity zone, because in the interim, regardless of what happens with legislation, we've got to do something right now. And so we have responded right now. We've begun an interview. We'll name some people here within the next week that will be filling out that staff. We'll make announcements around that. And I think in the interim, we continue. This begins the dialogue. So where I stand is, you know, we initiate the dialogue. This continues the dialogue to go further. We do have a responsibility to do what's right for our kids. And so, for me, you know, and I go back to where I've come from, to come from a place where schools are very high performing, and we figure out a way to get them there, and knowing what that looks like. This board has gone way too long with this conversation, and it is time, in my opinion, that we figure out what we're going to do, so that. And I go back and I look at the students, I look at the teachers, I look at the principals, I look at the community, and there's such a cloud of uncertainty. And at some level, we've got to, our job, I feel like my job is to create clarity and to create certainty. I'm looking at a principal, the principal of Whitmore, right back in the back somewhere. Where'd she go? She was back there, right? And so for her, for every principal in the district that's operating, for every teacher, for every parent, for every student, we need to provide a clear picture of where things are headed. Now, I've said this to the commissioner, and I've said this openly. In a perfect world, she would have allowed us to come in and implement an opportunity zone and turn the schools around. The world isn't perfect, and this problem didn't start yesterday. This problem's gone on for several years. So I do think it's time to make a decision, and let's move forward with it and move the work of the system forward.
Thanks, sir. I've got a question before we call, to see if we have a motion to take a vote or not. One thing, Mr. Bennett, if it should be the will of this board to take a vote this evening, when would be the appropriate time?
You may as well put it under board matters, because that's fine on your agenda. And if it's the will of the board to put it there, you might want to drill down to whether you want to look at the resolution that I sent out, that I got from the state, whether you want to look at the resolution that the executive committee put together, or something that this board might want to craft in real time. You've got some flexibility.
So we actually have two options, or somewhere in between the two options. And let me say this, I have made contact with the State Attorney General's office, and perhaps just ask a question of someone in the office there. This is not a binding agreement, is that right, Ms. Sinclair? This is an agreement to work forward. We're not yet under contract. We are, in good faith, we're hoping to work this out, but it is not as yet binding, is that correct?
This would not be a contract, this would be a resolution by the board. We would move forward over the next several months of developing that binding contract.
Right, but it is, as of yet, it is the will to work into one, but it is not yet binding.
Yes, it's the continuation of the planning process to move forward with the partnership zone rather than the achievement school district.
So hopefully we would not come to an impasse, but that is a possibility.
Dr. Hollander, both of the resolutions that have been drafted, the state's is very high level. It really talks about concept. As a matter of fact, it really is it's just pulled from the state's ESA application to the United States Department of Education. Ours is a little bit more specific, and it highlights some concerns that I think board members have had during the course of this conversation. I would point out that if you're having the conversation with the state about what this partnership might look like, you could also have a conversation with your local legislative delegation and make some suggestions or some requests about what the partnership could be, should be. So either of those is really just an opportunity to start the dialogue to move it forward. It's not actually determining anything just yet.
So if we move this to board matters, we would vote on it at that time, as to whether or not to take the vote?
It's the pleasure of the board.
What is it? What are we voting on? The resolution?
Are we voting on the resolution, or to proceed forward with the?
Well, if I may, I think if if you want to talk about this, then someone needs to make a motion to place this matter on the agenda under Roman numeral 10, and to vote on a resolution regarding the proposed partnership zone.
Mr. Chairman?
So do I hear the motion to place it under number 10, letter I believe that's correct, sir? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
So moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Need some discussion?
Discussion?
Yes. I happened to receive some information today from one of our representatives. There are still opinions that are being issued as of today from the Attorney General's office about this very thing. And I think we need to be, it's been going on for a long time, a number of years, and I know that they want to push this thing on through. But I am very concerned about our kids in our schools. Believe me, I am. I live in the Brainerd area, and I know these kids. I see them on the playground, see them at the rec center, see them at McDonald's. I know the kids that work there. We do not want to just go moving on this thing so quickly when there's still legal opinions being issued as of today.
Can you share those with us?
Well,
I mean, I'd like to know what it is, because
I know that Ms. Favors had received opinions from the Attorney General's office today, just today.
And
she sent them to just you.
I received a copy of those, yes. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Coach Galloway,
Hold on. And so, and I know we've got to do something with these things, and it may be that this partnership will work. But right now, until the law changes, I don't think we need to be making decisions based on what may happen. That makes sense.
Mr. Galloway?
I just want to ask David this and see if this goes along with what you're saying. What you're saying makes sense, but aren't we talking about just voting on getting the process started? I mean, if it falls through, because of legislation, then it falls through. But just to sit and do nothing, that's what I'm saying.
I feel that it will be used, if we agree to it, that it's going to be used as the, should I just say the word, more strength to create such a partnership. I'm not sure it's the best thing for us. I think our legislative body needs to debate this thing. I don't think they've had opportunity to do so. And I think we're trying to get the cart before the horse again. I think we've done it before with the state of Tennessee, and we're back to do it again. And I'm for one thinking it's been going on for a long time, yes, and what's going to delay a few more months until this thing is settled in our legislative body, and until we know the direction that our current commissioner is, if she's going to be part of this new plan or not. The difference between 5 years and 10 years, and whether state controls it or not. And, hearing the state say already, they've given some back a lot earlier than 5 years, 10 years, excuse me. So I don't think the urgency is here. I really don't think so. There needs to be more people included in this discussion. Our legislative assembly needs to be discussing this thing, and I'm sure they will. But there needs to be more public discussion before we are forced to make a decision. I think we're being forced to.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Smith?
One thing that's very clear that we all agree on is that neither option is a good option. I think we don't agree on anything else, we all agree on that. In Dr. Johnson's 34 days, I think he said, that he's been our leader. I've already come to respect you, Dr. Johnson, and your wisdom and experience. But I asked a question just a minute ago, and I'm not sure you answered it. where are you at? I wanna know, if you had to make a recommendation to this board, what would that recommendation be?
Excuse me just a second. Ms. Inquilata, why don't you sit down and relax? Thank you. I'm sorry that I didn't say that earlier.
Yeah, I repeat that it's out of the two options, it's the best option. Out of the two options, it's the best option. Period. That's, so, you know, out of the, when given two options, it's by far the best option. We don't want schools going to the ASD. We just don't want that.
Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if Senator Gardenhire had anything that he'd like to add, or do you have any words that you'd like to share with us? Or I don't mean to put you on the spot. However, we're having an intense conversation. If there's anything that you can shed a light on, that'd be helpful.
If you don't know, Senator Gardner, you are still the chair of the Senate Education Committee, is that correct?
Of the K-12 subcommittee.
K-12 subcommittee.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I am the only person in Southeast Tennessee that's on the Education Committee in the Senate. And Kevin Brooks in Cleveland is on the House Committee. Mr. Testman, the legislative delegation has talked about this and talked about this and talked about this and talked about this and talked about this as much as we want to. And to even infer that we haven't even discussed it is not fair.
No, I'm not saying you
I
didn't
heard you,
discuss
I heard you.
But you just,
You
you haven't discussed,
Now, I'll go ahead, if you want to sit down, I'll sit down. What do you want me to do? Okay. It's time to make a decision. Ms. Jones, Ms. Robinson, this is their district. As Ms. Thurman said, if it was my district, I would like to have that opportunity to y'all listen to it. If these two know their constituencies more than anybody else in this room, I would point out they're my constituency, all of them are. And I've had as much discussion as a lot of other people have. Representative Favors has had a lot of discussion. This thing has been discussed long enough. It's really time to decide. You're not entering into a contract right now. You're entering into an opportunity to discuss what a contract will be. As far as your funding goes, you have no idea next year what the county commission is gonna fund. They could cut you back. We could be in a recession and they have to cut you back or do something that's different from what you want. But nobody has any guarantee if anybody's gonna get any money. If this thing follows through and it's passed, I can tell you, as we have told Superintendent Johnson, we will do whatever we can to support him in the effort to get these schools on the right track. It appears to me that some people think what's going on now and what's going on in the past is fine. And it's wonderful, and it's not. And you've got a whole generation of kids that aren't getting the opportunity that other people are getting for some reason. And I'm not here to discuss any of those reasons. But this is the best opportunity that this system has to move forward and get help from every direction you can possibly get. We're gonna do what we can to support the superintendent. If an agreement is reached that we can all live with, the three parties, and there are three parties to this agreement. There's the Hamilton County School System, there's the state of Tennessee, we're right back there, and there's the legislature. And we will all work together, but to start with, you have to agree to enter into a discussion, not enter into a contract. Now,
Thank you, sir.
that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, I believe it's time to call for the vote, is it not? Any more, I mean, we have to vote. We have to vote.
And so we're clear, this is just a motion to add the resolution, or discussion of the partnership zone resolution to the agenda as item Roman, 10I.
Last item, okay.
Correct.
Okay, so we're ready.
And because this part of the horse is dead, we can wait until then to discuss which resolution.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Now, if no one minds, we will move on. Thank you so much to all. That's what I said. We vote added, he said no. thought.
Oh, I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Okay, I called for the vote to add, I thought he said no.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Howard?
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry, maybe I didn't make it clear. I was talking to the vote. Thank you. Okay, moving on, please. Ms. Uncleod, thank you so much for your patience and your endurance. Thank you very much. Next, we have School Bus Consultants Audit Report, Dr. Lee McDade, Assistant Superintendent, and David Eads, Transportation Director.
Thank you, Chairman Highlander. In the spring of last year, the board agreed to allow us to hire school bus consultants to come in and do an audit of the transportation department. They reviewed staffing, logistics, and contracts. They have now finished that and are ready to present their findings. And I will turn it over to the school bus consultants.
I'm looking up here. Hi, I'm Jeff Byer, I'm a school bus consultant, and we've been working for the last 3 months or so, pulling together information from the school transportation office. We're basically an overview of the department without getting into too many specifics with any one thing. So our scope of work began with data collection and organization, the staffing levels, contract review, the school bus contracts themselves and evaluation of those, contractor accountability planning, and the organizational structure and staffing assessment. We have created some baseline metrics from some of the data that we got, which started out with the school district budget. This is, by the way, from this past school year for 16-17. And one of the things we look at in transportation is the percentage of the transportation budget as a total of the operation budget. Transportation came out at 4.4% of the budget, and national averages are 4 to 6%. So you're down near the lower end, but we're okay with that. You've got 251 buses in operation. The average annual cost per bus overall, meaning every type of bus that's run, is $61,580 per bus. The national average, or industry standards, excuse me, is $58,000 to $69,174. So you guys fall in well there. The average annual cost for a student overall is $761. You're actually lower in cost than the national averages of $1,000 to $1,100. And trips per bus, quickly understanding that you basically have a 3-tier bell system. So the possibility of buses doing 3 routes in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. You guys are just shy of 5. I rounded it up to 5, which is also very good. Annual cost for regular education bus is $575. You were below the national average on that, which is good. Annual cost per student with special needs bus, or excuse me, special needs child, is a little over $7,000 to transport. The national averages are $6,200 to $6,600, so you are high in that area. I would imagine a lot of that's got to do with program placements, the number of miles you're having to travel from where the child is to where the actual program is, and lots of other things that drive up those kinds of costs, which we typically see anywhere from 6 to 10% higher than to transport a regular education child. Annual cost per independent contractor bus was just shy of $65,000. The averages are 58 to almost 70,000, so you're okay there. Annual cost per Durham bus, and I'm not picking them out for any specific reason other than the fact they're under a different contract. They're at $60,400, again within the ranges. Again, you had 251 route buses. They have 950 plus individual trips to 79 schools. They have over 10,000 bus stops, which is a lot of bus stops. I would take it there's, because of the geographical area, you have a lot of house stops, rural areas, that type of thing.
So there's often a given reason for these kinds of anomalies. Just the fact, this was last year, 191 Durham routes, 49 independent, and 11 are by a company called American Logistics. Those numbers changed this year because some contracts from Durham were turned over to independent contractors. We just hit some highlighted areas here. We looked at the policies and procedures. We looked at eligibility, pretty much like anybody else in the country. We didn't find anything outstanding, yes or good or bad there. We saw there's outlines for school staff involvement in transportation operations. A lot of things you guys detailed that a lot of school districts don't. We go to some places and they've got 0 policies. Your policies overall are very good. We did take a few of them in the report and made some recommendations, either change some language or clarify some things or just get rid of it, whatever it may be. So everything from bus route planning to how to do stops, student behavior, emergency procedures, all these things are in the manuals that you guys have and we thought was good. This is just a quick contract review. Whether it's Durham or the independent, they're all responsible for their own hiring, training, dispatching, fleet procurement, and fleet maintenance. Routing is the responsibility of the school district itself, and that's the case of all the contracting systems here, including American Logistics. Again, everything is the same thing for the other independent contractors. Once again, here, I'm going through these quick because a little bit of it is repetitive. A lot of new agreements in the contracts for this year regarding GPS units, radios, cameras, accident reporting procedures, and paperwork requests have been stepped up, and we appreciate seeing that. We appreciate seeing the newer technology come in. What will be difficult, as you can see highlighted at the bottom, is the existing staff have the capacity to look at all these different types of technologies and understand what we're going to ask the school system to understand is the amount of time it takes to just view cameras, for not just because something happened, but to go in and view to see how school bus drivers operating this bus, see how the kids are behaving on the bus before something happens. What's that going to take? It's going to take additional personnel. Future planning. Again, I'm not going to bite down too much in each one of these. It's about the uses of the technology, the different things that they're used for. And so future planning, who's going to be responsible for the management of the new programs? There's another one that I will be talking about in a moment. How can we plan to establish practices to ensure the data collection is put to good use? There's no sense in spending all this money and collecting all this data if you do nothing with it. It's very expensive in the school bus world for this technology, and it's hard to keep up with, but it is extremely important. And what we're saying is now is 2017-18 school years to start to put some of these established planning to work. Staff summary, we have a director, an assistant to the director, and 2 routing specialists. Durham provides all their own dispatch, maintenance, and supervisory support. The district staff also do dispatching for the independent contractors. And today, I witnessed them doing dispatching for Durham also because they're short of drivers or monitors, and so their people that work in the office are out driving, and your folks are having to cover the radios and the telephones, which does what? Takes them away from their work. Okay, and they have what we're recommending. Wait a minute. Oh, we're saying the 2 routing specialists have 250 bus routes. Let's see if I got it on the next page. Yeah, the recommended ratio for regular education routers is 100 buses for 1 full-time staff person. And in the special education routers, it's 50 buses to 1 full-time staff. When you have 251, routes, buses, whatever you wanna call them. So you guys are short, about 1.25 person based off industry standards for, in school buses. Alright, well, again, I mentioned this already, we want you to give consideration to contract oversight function and the requirements of the independent contractors, and also recommendation of, there's no way that one person in the position of the director, as big as this place is, as many contractors as you have, as much is going on, that one man can give fair attention to it in any kind of a normal day. I mean, I always say school transportation day starts at like 10 hours, guaranteed, and then everything else happens. You're definitely short on supervisory staff, and we believe there needs to be whatever you wanna call them, a safety manager, safety director, whatever. Somebody needs to start looking at the contracts. We're gonna recommend a contract management plan here in just a moment. Somebody needs to be out on the road watching what's going on. I've been all over the country. I run my own system for 25 years. If you don't go out and watch the people, they're gonna do stupid things. They need to know there's somebody out there, even if they just see you. There's no interaction. They just need to see you and know somebody's out there. Real quickly, on the technology side, we're recommending they do a little bit of upgrading of the technology system. There's currently no kids in the routing system. They can't produce any manifest with ridership on buses, because they don't have kids in the system. So we're recommending that this capability of getting the kids out of Power School into EdgeLog, the routing system. One of the things that happens there, excuse me, I'm a little dry now, is software systems that count for the number of passengers you're putting on a bus. And if you're not technically loading any buses, it's not adding time to the route to account for the number of kids that you're picking up at the stop. So it shortchanges you on your time. That's pretty much about it there. Oh, one more thing. We're kind of recommending, as I was talking about dispatching earlier, trying to establish a central dispatch location where somebody can monitor all the buses going on. Because again, you sit down there, I was down there all day long, not just sitting around, but I'm watching them, here calls a Durham bus, somebody's answering the phone, and nobody's getting their work done. That needs to be in a location separate from what everybody else is trying to do in their work day. That's it. Comments or questions?
That's very thorough. We thank you, Dr. Day, for him in here.
I appreciate you all having us, and you got some really good folks in transportation. They were very, very helpful, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question. Dr. Bryan, or Dr. Johnson, are there next steps from this consultation plan? Are you planning to do something with it?
Yeah, so I think part of the work will be to look at our strategic plan, obviously, the recommendations that were made, the board will have to definitely consider those. The recommendation of 1.25 positions, and somebody being visible on the road, things we'll have to discuss.
No questions for our guests? Thank you, sir. Again, everybody.
Thank you.
And next, ABM Custodial Service Presentation Update, Justin Witt.
Thank you, Chairman Highlander, Dr. Johnson, members of the board. As you know, we've been working on getting a game plan with ABM, increase some service with ABM. We've had a couple of challenges. We implemented a plan with, sat down with Scott Stewart and Dennis Willis. We've seen some improvement over the last couple of months. Got a lot of positive feedback from principals. positive feedback from some of the board members, and, one thing our plan was communication, and I'm hearing that from principals, and another part of the communication is communicating with the board. I think this may be something that we do every couple months now, just keep everybody informed. I'll turn it over to Scott Stewart.
Thank you, Justin. So, yeah, I'd just like to thank the board members, Dr. Highlander, Dr. Johnson, for allowing ADM to present tonight. My name is Scott Stewart. I'm the Director of Operations for ADM Education Services. I have Dennis Willis with me as well. He's the District Manager for ADM for the Hamilton County Schools. You should have a packet in front of you right now. That will allow you to look at the agenda we're going to discuss this evening, and we'll have some questions and answers at the end of the presentation. Just like to start with a moment of safety. Safety is a commitment that ADM has with all of our employees, and it's creating a safe environment also for the students and teachers and the public of Hamilton County. It's very important that we make sure that we have our wet floor signs out, we have our barricades out in the summertime with stripping and waxing going on, we have our bottles labeled, and our safety data sheets in all the janitorial closets. So safety is very important to us. Let's also talk about recruitment and staffing. In January of this year, we added a recruiter to ADM, and it made a huge difference in that aspect. It helped us with our onboarding with our employees, our orientation with our employees, and our training with employees. We also have a full allotment of ADM staff members to support all of the employees, so it's been very helpful for all of us. You know, in the past, Amazon and other seasonal companies has made it very difficult for ADM to have employees maintained on a regular basis. But with the recruiter and now the employee wage rates that we increased in February of this year, we have stabilized our workforce. We gave our general cleaners, our leads, and our day porters up to $1 raise this past year. And that made a huge difference in what we being able to maintain the staff. Our initial starting wage rate for the employees now is $9 an hour. With our lead and day porters is $10 an hour. We also have many of our employees making much higher than that because of the tenure of our employees. So it's been exceptional on what we're doing. Our main drawing points to maintain the staff has been our benefits. Each year, our employees receive an annual increase. We also have paid holidays of 6 holidays each year. We have paid vacation. We offer health insurance through the Affordable Care Act and the All-State Plan. We also offer ABM stock at a reduced rate for our employees, a 401k, and opportunities for advancement. This year, we also added a second transportation shuttle. This has been a big benefit to us. A lot of our employees don't have the luxury of having vehicles or being able to get to the work site themselves, so we transport numerous individuals both to the workplace and back to ABM. So it's been a big benefit for us. You know, employee accolades. Let's talk about our summer cleaning. We had an extraordinary effort this past summer in cleaning, especially focusing on detailed cleaning the restrooms, the classrooms, the offices, and specifically our floor care. As you can see, flipping through your packet, you'll see the many accolades that principals and assistant principals sent in reference to our employees' efforts as well as the quality that we provided to the schools. You know, quality control is very important. We do inspections on a daily basis with our management staff, but on a dedicated monthly meeting with our principals and assistant principals, we have communications on any cleaning needs that need to be addressed and open communications for them as well. So that's been very important to us. Also this summer, we added a second delivery truck for our materials and supplies, paper and tissue, and that's been a great boost to the program as well. Finally, I'd just like to thank Justin Witt and Dr. McDade and the board and Dr. Johnson for the support you've given ABM, and we look forward to striving for a clean environment for your teachers, students, and your staff. So we're open to any questions you might have or anything that we need to answer.
Ms. Thurman?
Yes, I think, I see the accolades from a lot of the principals in my district, and I don't think any of them have a problem with the employees. I think the problem that the employees have is they have a problem with equipment. A lot of times getting the equipment they needed to do, the work they needed to do, and the supplies. Got a lot of complaints about that. like I said, I don't have a problem, I love the custodians and things that are in all of our schools, I know just a whole lot of those guys, and I don't have any problem with them, and so I just noticed that most of the accolades here were for the workers in their schools, and you know, that's, they're to be commended because they do a good job, but I think they would even do a better job if maybe they were able to get some of the equipment and supplies that seems to have been the problem this past year. I know some of it's been ramped up here in the last few months, but what concerns me is that you vamp it up right here at the end, and then is it gonna fall back off again? I think that's the kind of thing I have a problem with. Like I say, so many times I would get contacted about it because some of the custodians, and they would tell me they did not have the equipment that they needed, and they did not, or the equipment was subpar, or they did not have the supplies they needed in the school to clean the school like they think it needed to be cleaned. So that's my main complaint. I don't know if anyone else got those kinds of complaints or not, but I know I did in my district. And like I say, the accolades are great, and I know we have some people that work really hard. I don't have a problem with any of those guys. But like I said, I just want to be sure they're getting the equipment and supplies that they need to do their job.
You know, we recognize that, and we heard a lot of that from our employees as well, and that's why we made the commitment. Dennis and I brought in a tremendous amount of equipment over the summertime. We added that additional delivery truck, so we are listening to our employees and to the board, so we are addressing those issues, and I think we've made great strides in improving them.
Let me add to this too, Ms. Thurman. I've had a lot of principals emailing me when there's issues, because I've told them to. And I get a hold of that man right there when I have an issue, and I have a direct channel now that I don't have to go around looking for somebody. I just call Scott Stewart, and it gets fixed. And that was not happening before. So I can stand up and say, as long as I have that direct link, I'm happy with ABM. I was not happy with them, and they knew I was not happy with them because I told them. And we fixed a lot of things in the last year.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
I had a question to kind of piggyback on what Rhonda was saying about the supplies. The actual equipment, like the toilet paper holders and those things, do you all supply that or do we supply that?
No, ma'am, we do, and we have to have a constant, we constantly replace a lot of those. They get broken, they're hit.
Yeah, so that was my question. I was in a school recently and they were literally like falling off the side. And I know not that it was, the kids are rough. The kids are rough. But I was wondering if there's a sturdier way to secure them maybe. I don't know. It really bothered me that they was hanging off the thing like that. And the kids are rough. I'm gonna say that again. I know the kids are rough and sometimes they yank and pull or whatever, and they might pull the roll and they fall down or whatever. I just was wondering if there's a sturdier way to secure that, because I guess cost effective wise, it's gonna be costly for you all to keep replacing toilet paper holders and paper towel holders.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know that there's a more sturdy way. I mean, it's I mean, to be able to access it, it's on the wall, be able to make it usable, and so I mean, they do respond quickly. I mean, it happens in a lot of schools, but I think we lean back on the leadership of the school to kind of correct some of those issues. But yeah, if that does happen, they supply them, and we get them back up as soon as we can.
Yeah, I've had reports from some of my schools that the equipment's a little short, like Ms. Thurman said, and we need some. So, I'm sure they're listening to them, and I appreciate that. My sweet wife, a 38-year teacher, the last 2 years under ABM, she had to buy toilet paper and paper towels and so I think that has changed, and I'm thankful for that. I am very thankful at one time.
I think you just piggyback what Dennis has done a great job. I think
Yes.
We were lacking some managers. I think adding another layer of management is taking some off Dennis. Dennis is being able to get back out in the schools more, not answer some of our phone calls, and I think that was a great addition with Scott to be able to buffer some of this from us and from Lee and kind of put them in the right direction. I will say, I know we've got a lot on our plate right now, and this goes back to the contract discussions from last year. We extended it for 1 year. I'm gonna look at the next meeting, at least have that discussion early. I'd rather go ahead and have the discussion early on the contract for possibly the next board meeting.
Thank you. And let me ask real quickly, if a board member hears something, should we go through you document date or Would that be the best way?
Go through separate or Mr. Witt.
Okay, and I have seen improvements, so thank you so much. But like Ms. Thurman, sometimes we're a little short on equipment, but hard to keep up with it.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, both of them, all three of them. Thank you. So go on, please. We have a wonderful opportunity now, the Milken Educator Award, Ms. Jill Levine and Tanya Goss and Sylvia Flowers, Executive Director of Educator Talent in the state of Tennessee, Dr. Queenstaff. Did I get everyone involved there?
Yes.
And we need to have we would like to have a photo op opportunity with the board, if that's all right with you at the end of this presentation.
Good evening. I'll be very brief and just say we're really honored to have Sylvia Flowers here from the Tennessee Department of Education. She's the Executive Director of Educator Talent at the Tennessee Department of Ed.
So in our division, it is a great pleasure to recognize and celebrate teachers and leaders across our state, both state level awards and national awards like the Milken Educator Award. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the Milken Educator Award. It was established 30 years ago. This is the 30th anniversary by the Milken Family Foundation. And it is really focused on rewarding and honoring top educators around the country with $25,000. And in these last 30 years, the foundation has recognized more than 2,700 educators and has given out more than $68 million across the country. Being a Milken educator is the start of a great network and professional development. In March of this year, we were able to covertly surprise Katie Baker at Battle Academy, and Ms. Goss was my partner in crime in trying to execute this event about 4 times, and the 4th time was a charm. And I think to say you were surprised is an understatement. Miss Katie Baker is a 3rd grade teacher at Battle Academy, and she is one of those unsung heroes in the school. She has been touted as a quiet strength in her organization. She serves on the school leadership team, has been a team leader for the 3rd grade team, and also serves as a mentor teacher for many student teachers that come through the building. It is my pleasure to present her officially with the Milken obelisk, which says, "The Milken Educator Award, the future belongs to the educated." Presented to Katie Baker by the Milken Family Foundation and the Tennessee Department of Education.
Ms. Baker just started her 7th year of teaching. She is a beginning teacher, and she's getting married next weekend, so this has been a phenomenal year for her.
I would love to get a photo.
Would each of you shake hands with the board, and then if you'll stand here, and the board will squeeze in its close range. We would love to shake hands with each of you, if you could, please. If you young ladies could come in the middle, please, if that's okay. It's important that if they stand here and we squeeze in as close as we can. However you want. No, you place the camera.
Yeah.
Squeeze in as close. Tell Johnny that too.
Of course, we've got some taller folks in the
Move the
front.
center where you want.
Yeah.
You want us to come out front?
Yeah, that's the one.
We'll come out front.
know when the city hall reunion is? November 10th, 11th, Friday, Saturday. Make sure you knew.
We're a big family here.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so meet everybody in. Okay. Everyone say Milken.
Out here at the Marion out here in Shelford.
Okay, now look at her. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Dr. Queen needs to pay you more this way.
Yeah, but you remember what they look like back then.
That was very pleasant of you. Coming next, it is my pleasure to recognize Gail Adams, past president of Tennessee PTA. She is going to recognize HCDE National PTA Schools of Excellence.
Chairman Highlander, Superintendent Dr. Johnson, and school board members, thank you for having us tonight. On behalf of Tennessee PTA, we are excited to recognize 2 schools from Hamilton County tonight which have been awarded the National PTA School of Excellence for 2017 and 19. And they are Allen Elementary and Nikki Blanchard. Nikki is the PTA president and Erling Weeks is the principal. Middle School, Chrissy Highfield, PTA president, and Brent Eller, the principal. By enrolling in this program, these PTA and school administrators are making a year-long commitment to identifying and implementing an action plan for school improvement based on the National PTA Standards for Family School Partnerships. This process began last year in October beginning with support, surveying the parents and staff. The application process following a roadmap to excellence and deployed the final survey. Applications were sent to National PTA by June 1st. These 2 schools of excellence will help attract new action-oriented PTA members who want to focus on the issues that affect our children the most. This will open the door to other honors and opportunities for these schools. So on behalf of the Tennessee PTA, I would like to present a plaque and a certificate to both of these schools.
Ma'am, could you, Ms. Ketcher, can you come back to, we want to get a picture. We'd like to get a good, good place.
Would you like them to?
Yeah, we definitely want them to kind of shake our hands, if they would, please. Could we get a picture of you handing the awards?
Sure.
We want to post this. Please let us shake your hands also.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Johnson.
Yeah, just real quick, I know we started off this board meeting with a very contentious topic, but the reality is, when you look at the work of Hamilton County, this is the exciting work. To have a Milken teacher and to have 2 national PTA award recognized organizations is absolutely phenomenal. So, kudos.
Thank you so much for saying that. Very true. Operation Get Active, our own Tiffany Robinson will introduce Peter Woolcock.
Peter is the director of Operation Get Active, and it is a program that instills soccer skills in a number of elementary schools throughout our community, and is very active in District 4. And so I'm excited to have Peter here to share all the great work that they're doing in our community.
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson, and thank you to the board for having me tonight to talk about Operation Get Active. I'm Peter Woolcock, and I'm with the Chattanooga Football Club Foundation, and I'm going to talk to you about Operation Get Active, which is our after-school program that we're running across multiple schools in Chattanooga. So just roll the next slide, and we're going to see a short video from our spring program. Thank you. Operation Get Active is part of the Chattanooga Football Club Foundation, which was established in November of 2015. And the Chattanooga Football Club is our amateur soccer team here in Chattanooga, which was established in 2009. And hopefully will soon be a professional soccer club here in Chattanooga. So under the foundation, we have 2 programs. One is Operation Get Active. The other is Chattanooga Sports Ministries, and we also run the operations of Highland Park Commons, which is a soccer facility in Highland Park. It was always the plan for Chattanooga Football Club to have a foundation and have a community outreach. They have a very successful academy, but we wanted to have a community focus that made affordable soccer program for our youth in Chattanooga. So Operation Get Active, we launched in the spring of 2016, and we operate 3 times a year, so spring, summer, and fall. The program is for girls and for boys. It's for grades 4 and 5, but we're now looking to start in the spring of 2018 with grades 3 as well. And it's a 10-week long program, and the sessions run twice a week after school, so from 3 until 4:30 typically. We end the program, so we end the 10 weeks with a huge soccer tournament in which we bring all of the kids that have been participating in the program together so that they get to play against the other schools that have been doing the program. This is a really great point of the program, bringing all these kids from all these different parts of Chattanooga together. It's also where our parents come and they get to see their kids playing soccer in a great stadium such as Finley. So this is our program. Currently, we're working with 13 elementary schools across Chattanooga. Here you can see the list of them there. We have registered currently actually more than 360 kids. This was just at the beginning of the week. We're now close to 400. We just started the full program a couple of weeks ago, and we still have kids sign up whilst the program's sort of running. So this is our biggest engagement yet, and we're really excited to see the sort of demand for the program out in all of these schools. So we have a team of 42 coaches who are working across all of our schools, and this here is Logan Hester. He is a grade 5 teacher at Calvin Donaldson Elementary. So we've been working really hard to encourage more teachers to become our coaches. Because we have found that the more teacher involvement in the program really helps with a good, successful program. All of our coaches are paid. We have 2 levels. We have a senior and an assistant sort of coaches. And we now have over 15 teachers involved in our program as coaches. So some of the partnerships that we have are, one is with the YMCA, who provide over 720 up to 800 meals per week. So at the end of the sessions, the kids receive a YMCA snack, which is really important for a lot of the schools that we're working with, that these kids at the end of the session are going home with a meal. So we're hugely appreciative of the YMCA. They come and deliver those meals directly to the schools. We also work really closely with the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. We currently have, we're working with their sport administration program. We have an intern that's working with us this fall. But we're also doing some research with them on using fitness and activity monitors. So this fall, we're going to be doing a project with them on that. We're also hugely appreciative of the partnership we have with the Hamilton County Department of Education. With all of the principals that we go and speak to and about the program, they're always really receptive and are really, really helpful in us getting the program started, through to the help with transportation. This spring, we had 9 schools that needed transportation to Finley Stadium for our soccer tournament, and HCDE helped us with that, which was huge, and we're looking for that to continue now onto this fall. We also work with the City of Chattanooga, and we work with their youth and family development centers. So we, as well as the elementary schools, some of our coaches go on and work at the recreation centers across the city. This fall we'll be working with 6 different centers. And finally, we receive our training for the coaches from the United Soccer Coaches Association. They're a national sort of governing body, and they come in at the beginning of the spring and the fall and provide a certificated soccer training for all of our coaches, which is hugely important, and it prepares them for the program. So our long-term goal, as you saw in a previous slide, we're working with 13 elementary schools. My goal for the program is that I would love to see Operation Get Active offered at every elementary school in Hamilton County. So this is something that we're definitely working towards, and through the partnership with yourselves, we hope we can kind of achieve this goal in the next coming years. I believe it's a really great, replicable program, especially with teacher involvement, that we can definitely start offering this program, outside of just the Chattanooga area that we're working at right now. Finally, here's another very short video of our end of program soccer tournament that we hold at Finley Stadium.
Today is a big spring end of season tournament. So it's just all the schools, all the rec centers we partnered with are here today to play amongst each other after 10 weeks of practice.
Today's the day they get to play with each other and compete against other people. And it's really cool to see the kids who have been practicing together and then they actually come together as a team out here and they learn a lot and they really develop a love for the game, and that's what CFC is all about.
I feel like I'm on a real CFC team.
My son, his grandson, is out here for his first ever Operation Get Active tournament.
So it's a family affair. Family affair, yes.
He actually went to the CFC match, and he just fell in love.
Yeah.
And then we got
soccer.
It's been all soccer, all soccer. And with Coach Jay and Coach Alex has just been extraordinary with him.
We want to bring everything up from a grassroots level, and OGA is the perfect thing for that.
Teaching them a new game that they probably never even experienced without OGA.
Yes.
Coming to teach them about soccer. So they teach kids skills and it's active. They keep the kids active. That's the whole objective of it. Just keeping kids active and outside. And keep them moving around. Operation Get Active is the best thing ever because I know that he's not somewhere on his tablet, on his phone.
Exactly.
60 minutes, so he's going to have to be outside and run and play with other kids.
Yeah. The phone mode is what I call it, to where you can see every kid in school or after school, they're in phone mode, but as soon as soccer comes around, they drop the phones and then they go back to being a kid, and that's what it is. It is growing rapidly, and it's awesome to see kid numbers at each school where even we already have teams, the numbers are growing, and the kids love it. We only get positive feedback, so it's really awesome.
What would you say the other kids are thinking about it? Oh, they definitely need to do it. Yeah. Great. Very great.
Sir, you've made this board smile more than anyone I've seen today.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
And where did you start your love of soccer?
Started it in England when I was a young boy. I got taken to my local soccer team when I was about sort of 9 years old, and it started from there. So yeah, I love the game, and I love bringing it to more and more kids. So.
Thank you for sharing it with these children. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we have Chattanooga Inclusive Education and Opportunities Action Team's plan, Dr. Justin Robertson.
Dr. Highlander, Dr. Johnson, members of the board. We originally were going to come and speak to you in June, but we felt like you were too busy in June, so we put it off to tonight. Probably wasn't such a wise decision. This time I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kell Horn, who has chaired this committee.
Thank you. Dr. Highlander, members of the board, Dr. Johnson, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Dr. Cale Horn, and I'm the coordinator of the Chattanooga Inclusive Education Working Group. We're a collaboration of area nonprofits that cover a wide range of disability areas in our community, as well as parents, educators, and related professionals. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about the state of special education in Hamilton County, which is in many ways troubling, but we believe we have some positive directions and solutions pointing forward. And I should point out that when we're talking about 6,000 students in Hamilton County who have qualifying disabilities, and I should point out that I believe those are disproportionately concentrated in I-zone and opportunity zone schools. The current state of special education in Hamilton County is one characterized by the extensive use of cluster sites, where children with disabilities are bused outside of their communities, away from their families, friends, and home zone schools to other parts of the county, and as you saw earlier this evening, at significant cost to the county and the taxpayer. These children are disproportionately placed in highly segregated settings, and I say disproportionately according to the county's own self-reported data compared to other districts in the state. So when we're looking at metrics of inclusion, how the percentage of the day the children with different disabilities spend in the general education classroom, in many of those categories we rank in the bottom 10% statewide for school districts, and this is in a state where levels of inclusion aren't that strong to begin with. But there is a solution, and that is evidence-based, properly supported, inclusive education. And I want to emphasize evidence-based and supported. When we came to, when the Inclusive Education Working Group came to the senior leadership of Hamilton County Schools about 1.5 years ago, we were very clear that everything that we suggested would be based in research. And in fact, there's 40 years of research pointing clearly to the benefits of inclusion. In that same period of time, there are no peer-reviewed studies supporting the benefits, pointing to any benefits from segregated models of education. And not only evidence-based, but supported. Everyone who's been a part of this discussion, and there have been many, we've spent a lot of time visiting schools in the district. We've spent a lot of time sending different delegations to visit other districts in the state. And everyone who's been a part of this process understands and agrees that if inclusion is not properly supported, that it will fail. That teachers have to have the right supports in place. What does inclusive education mean? It means putting children with disabilities in classrooms with their general peers as much as possible, as much as is appropriate. This means grouping children by age, not ability. By age, not ability. It means putting children back in their communities and getting them off of buses. It means presuming competence of all children. Having high expectations for these children, which means giving them access to the general education curriculum. The evidence is overwhelming. When children with disabilities have access to the general education curriculum in supported, inclusive environments, they have higher test scores in all subject areas, fewer absences, they are less dependent on public services in the long run, they are more engaged in their community, lower suicide rates, you name it. And one question that we run into a lot is, well, what does this mean for gen ed students, for typically developing peers? Does this mean taking time and resources away from other children in the classroom? It's a legitimate question, and the answer is clear. The research is clear, absolutely not. With inclusion, all boats rise. All boats rise. Just as we see academic and social benefits for children with disabilities, we see measurable, substantively significant academic and social benefits for children without disabilities. So if the two problems that have faced our district in recent days are academic performance and bullying, here you go. Here you go. In our own state, when we look at, we visited a couple of different systems that used to look a lot like ours and have made major transformations in the past decade or so. Those being Williamson County, Franklin, Tennessee, and Metro Nashville Public Schools. In Metro Nashville, which is a large urban environment, a difficult district to work in, like our own in many ways, in some ways worse. In Metro Nashville, since making this change toward inclusive education and getting rid of the cluster sites and moving towards evidence-based supported inclusion, they have seen test scores across grade levels and across subjects rise, and the achievement gap close. And I think holding those two pieces of data together are important, that the achievement gap between students with and without disabilities has continued to close, while the overall rate of achievement has continued to rise. Okay? It's not, they will be the first to tell you that they're not where they want to be, they're not where they need to be. These are problems that were not created overnight, and they're not going to be solved overnight. In Williamson County, I had a hard time wrapping my mind around this. Students with disabilities, with qualifying disabilities in Williamson County, perform on average higher on state standardized tests than students without disabilities statewide on average. Yeah, wow. And I'm pleased to say that over the past year and a half, we found willing and supportive and enthusiastic partners in the senior administration here, especially Dr. Robertson, who's really taken this on with a passion. And I think when we started this, trust between families and the families of students with disabilities and the school district was at an all-time low. And Dr. Robertson and the cooperation we've received from the school district has been tremendous, and I think we're on our way towards some real solutions and towards some real changes. And in terms of the academic goals that the district has set out, there's no way to reach them. No way to reach them without taking into account students with disabilities. It's just statistically impossible to reach those goals without taking into account those students. We could also talk about reducing the district's exposure in terms of lawsuits related to IDEA and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, that's not my interest. This is just the right thing to do. It's about human flourishing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Robertson to talk about what we've been doing.
Thank you so much.
So this is a partnership that started, a little over a year ago, and I want to emphasize that it is a partnership, and without the work of Margaret Abernathy, and specifically Margaret and Mitzi Delker in our special ed department, and then if you see on the back, the long list of different organizations, I believe some of them are here. If you guys don't mind raising your hand if you've been a part of this work, none of this would be happening. And about 8 months ago, when we were talking, we said we've got to make something happen quickly, or this is going to pass away. And with the work that this group has done in cooperation with Margaret Abernathy's staff and just this partnership, we've made some pretty amazing steps. You look at the bottom of that back page, already in place. We've started to look at where we can make sure the kids are going to their own schools. Pre-Ks are, I got in trouble for saying fully inclusive. Inclusive where appropriate. And we've emphasized some bright spots. Hickson's Ignite program, where they're partnering, typically developing peers with students with disabilities to ensure they're getting into regular classes. So we've made some really impressive steps, and we want to put together a 3-year plan that we're hoping once we present it to the board that you guys can get behind. We're not asking for anything right now, just wanted to give you an update and let you know where we are. And we want to, we're going to follow through with being the fastest improving district in the state. This is a group of our students that we've got to pay attention to, and we've got to do better by. We've got a quick video that's going to emphasize 2 bright spots in our district, Hickson High School and Soddy Elementary.
It's called Ignite, which stands for Individual Growth in an Inclusive Teaching Environment. It is getting our system-wide students who were traditionally in self-contained classrooms into the general education setting with support from regular ed students who are part of our service learning program.
We're taking students that were traditionally in a self-contained room and giving them all of the opportunities that they deserved all along.
When I go with other regular classes, I feel more welcome and get to know people, be a great student.
we choose mentors, they have an extensive process where they fill out an application and they have an interview with both of us. And then we train them in the classrooms with the individual, the mentees, and then we figure out who works best with who. And then we figure out who has a deficit in the area, perhaps they need to take, a biology class. And we figure out who has an aptitude or a desire for something, and then that's how we place them in the classrooms as they go into.
I enjoy the students and I enjoy working with the teachers, so I get the work for the students. You learn like their different routines, their behaviors, and this is something that's really special to me because I just really enjoy knowing each and every student on a personal level. It's amazing.
It's important because not only are we teaching them, they're teaching us. So it's like it's working both ways to make, all of us better as people, I guess, and, just having fun in the class, learning.
One of the biggest challenges that a school's going to have in implementing, a program as wide scale as this is the classroom support from the regular ed teachers. And here at Hickson High School, it's been wonderful.
5 minutes to make a whole classroom environment so much better. We are a very diverse school here at Hickson, and it shows the kids, it teaches them patience, it teaches them how to work with anyone and everybody, and that is the real world. It benefits the kids in that program for social skills and how they can keep up with the regular ed kids when they don't feel like maybe they can.
And it just creates such a different environment. It reduces bullying, it gives real world application of skills, it gives them a tool bag to function in society as it is. And it's starting to create a great deal of leadership among the students. It's starting to create the next generation of special education teachers, and it just benefits everybody.
This is actually my second year doing it as well. The first year, I'm not going to say it was easy. I loved it at first, and I'm still up to this day. It's actually one of my favorites.
Just try new things. Don't be afraid. Just keep going with your future and just do great with your grades.
At Sod Elementary, we don't really have a name for what we do. It's just our culture, and that's just what we strive to do, is to include all students, regardless of their ability, with other gen ed typical peers.
Comprehensive development class, so our students who need a little bit more modification in their work and their curriculum, that we want at the maximum extent that the student is able to be with their typical peers, they're going to be. Every student is going to look different because it is individualized, so making sure that when they're there, it's meaningful time.
It really teaches him how the mainstream life is going to be, having them mixed in with the typical children rather than all special needs separately. He likes the routine, he likes the typical behavior, he learns so much more.
The biggest thing is having open communication, not only with your gen ed teachers to collaborate and finding that time. I know it's tough, but in 10-15 minutes that you can work in, or even some teachers are willing and they're here after school.
One of the things I really value is if you were to walk past my room, you wouldn't be able to tell who was a CDC student and who was a general ed student. It just looks like one. Ultimately we want to challenge these kids to have a bright future. Part of having a bright future is be able to interact with different people, and I feel that's why at Sod Elementary our kids stand out because they're getting this hidden curriculum. They're not testing on it, but they're learning from this, and they're just becoming better students and better people from it.
Sometimes we get pigeonholed into we're looking at our goals and okay, this is where they're having a deficit, we need to hit this, and we do. We're going to hit those goals hard and work on them. We could have a gen ed teacher pulling a group of guided reading. Myself and one of my paraprofessionals, we can pull a group of guided reading and have that going on simultaneously in the same classroom instead of completely separating out our kids.
I can see the confidence in the kids. They seem to enjoy it. They talk more to their peers now that they're with them more often during the day.
And he likes it. He likes it. He likes learning. He's thriving. So that's really good.
Enlightening and once again makes us smile. Now we're coming to our delegation section, And Ms. Fritz Mosley Jones will read her rules.
So we have 3 delegations: Dan Liner, HCDA, Neil Placer, CSLA representative, and Donald Jacobson, MFG Day 2017. So, this is the delegation statement. Thank you for your interest in addressing the Hamilton County Board of Education. During your presentation, please address the board as a whole, not individual board members or administrators. Also, do not present complaints or concerns you have about an individual employee of the school system. If you wish to voice those complaints and concerns, you should contact the central office and ask for a meeting with the superintendent. If you are criticizing an individual employee, I will interrupt you and ask you to refrain. If you continue to criticize individual employees, or if your remarks are in error or becoming repetitive, I may interrupt you and ask you to sit down. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will tell you when you have 1 minute left, and you may begin when you're ready. So I read.
I'm withdrawing.
You're withdrawing? Oh, okay. So now we have 2 delegations represented. And that would be Mr. Placer, the CSLA representative, and then Mr. Jacobson.
Do we have the slide deck? Well, good evening, Dr. Johnson, board. My name is Neil Placer, and it's my privilege to be here. So I'm going to talk to you about school construction, and I will tell you up front, I am a proud CSLA parent of 3 kids, and I could tell you great stories about the accolades of CSLA and their diversity and their need for a school, but I'm not going to go there this evening. In fact, I'm not going to take a CSLA-centric approach. I'm going to take a Hamilton County-centric approach. And so with that, it's going to be very data-driven, there's analytics, and I want to look at the numbers. And because of that, I'll tell you at the front, there's a lot to look here to digest. So I'm just going to give you the high-level view, but it's intentional that I gave you these numbers so you can look at it after the fact. So let me jump right in. When you're looking at construction, there's 2 primary factors that stand out. So there's student spacing and cost per unit area. And you need to start with some sort of reference point. So if you look at the Tennessee DEP handbook, you notice there's some guidelines right off the bat. And so what I'm highlighting here is, you can see on average student spacing is about 113 feet squared per student. And then the items in yellow are the ones I really want you to focus on, because I'm going to carry these through to the end of the conversation. So the cost per unit area, and don't get lost in all the numbers, the average there is about 141 to 165 based on the BEP. So this is a starting point, and you have to look at then market data to see what's actually going on. Wait a second, all right. So let's look at both of those components. So student spacing first. And you see we have the BEP handbook and then actual numbers. This is based on 28 schools in Tennessee. You see that on average we're about 51% above standard. So we looked at that and said, okay, let's derive a midpoint value in between those 2 as a reasonable place, right? If they're oversized and the handbook is maybe a little bit too tight, let's find a midpoint value. And that's what's shown in yellow, and we're going to carry that forward to the end. But the importance of this is shown at the bottom. You have the calculations of an actual midpoint in BEP, and you can see, because if you look at this closely, you can save from $4.6 to $9.4 million. So this is not trivial. This per 1,000 students. It's not a trivial issue. So let's look at the cost per unit area. There's a lot here. Again, I recommend looking at this later, but I call your attention to the far right. And my first point is that there's a large diversity of range. So on the bottom end, you have $141, and on the top end, you have $237. And then the lines in the middle there, that's the market data. The blue is low, orange is average, and silver is high. So there's a big gap, so that's the first point. But then the second is I went and looked at this 121 number, and I called Goodwin, Mills, and Kaywood, and confirmed that 121 was a valid number. The other interesting thing I found out is that the 130.43 at Thompson Station is also a new construction that's being done at that price, and they're using the plans from the Mill Creek, and that's how they're saving money. So my point, it can be done at those lower values. And this is where I bring it home, and I'll spend most of the time, to what can you do with this? So I've touched on the first. You evaluate your current estimates to see where you are. And if you look at our construction plans in Hamilton County, the student spacing
2 of the 3 are oversized based on the midpoint. And then cost per unit area, it's much higher than the BEP range. So your totals are 164 million. This is letting the market drive the county, as opposed to, if you look at the county driving the market, you look at the bottom example, you can actually break this down into steps. So first you look at the student growth plan. How many students do you have to accommodate? So we have that. Then you look at what's the desired spacing, and you can, by the way, you can play with any of these numbers to see where you can get. But then you take those two, and that derives a step 3, what costs do I need to have all these projects done for 99 million, which is the budget. And you can see it comes in at 143, which is exactly the cost of the Thompson Station project, which is a real project. So is this fantasy? I don't think so. I think it's about creativity in how you do this. So I've given 2 options of how to do that. A reverse auction RFP. So if you develop these parameters and put out a request for proposal, and you say what they are, then you have a high value and let the market compete down. So it's a reverse auction. And then second, you do the Costco effect, the bulk purchase effect. Put this all under one umbrella, these 7 projects, and that way you can have shared cost savings across them. And I believe it's realistic. And so the goal here, again, is a win solution for the whole county by being a little bit more creative about optimizing this. And I guarantee you, if you put it out there on the market will get creative, and they will figure out these problems. They are the professionals in doing that, and all I'm saying is let them do that. So that is the end of my speech.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Jacobson?
Thank you. Superintendent Johnson, Dr. Highlander, school board members, HCDE members, guests, people live streaming on the video. Thank you for having me. I'm going to take it up a notch. I'm excited. There's manufacturing here in Chattanooga, and we need to tell people about it. We need to get kids involved in manufacturing. So what we've got coming up on October 6th is Manufacturing Day. It is a national holiday for manufacturers. It's where we go out and open our doors and say, come on in, see what we do in all these different facilities. Right now there are 1,817 specific opportunities for people to come see what's going on across the United States. There are 51 events here in Tennessee, and there are 3 in Hamilton County. Well, the 3 of us got together over lunch and said, let's do something together. So what we're doing is a Chattanooga-centric manufacturing day. BASF, one of the world's largest companies, known for their chemical products. Rotec, who just won manufacturing, a number 1 manufacturing company in Tennessee this past year, and Newcomb Spring, my family business. All 3 of us are getting together, and we're doing a day of manufacturing. The great part is it's the day off from school for the kids. It's the Friday before fall break. So there are kids looking for something to do. Maybe the parents will take this opportunity to bring them by one of these locations to learn about manufacturing. There are so many different types of manufacturing in Hamilton County. I can't touch on them all today. But I do want to talk about one of our summer interns. We worked with the PEF and the Step Up program to bring in some high school interns. We also worked with Chat State to bring in some high school interns this summer. And at the end of their term this summer, before they started college, I said, write me a review. Tell me about what you learned. Was this, something that you could recommend for other kids? And I was surprised. I was surprised by the answers I got because they were true answers. So I want to read a part that one of our high school students wrote. Nathan Humphreys, he's going to UTC this year, and this is what he said. Like most people who are not directly involved in the industry, manufacturing only ever crossed my mind in passing. And I had only had rough ideas of what kinds of jobs and processes were contained within the sector. I certainly had never considered a job within manufacturing before my internship at Newcomb Spring. And that was due in large part because of the lack of information about opportunities that are available within it. It was eye-opening discovering the breadth and variety of manufacturing and jobs that exist within our local community, not to mention nationally and globally. So with that in hand, and the fact that I want to get people excited about manufacturing, I'm here today to ask any of you if you have schools that you think would benefit from this program. There's teachers, classes, family members, uncles, relatives, cousins, anyone that you could recommend. I think this is a great opportunity coming up on October 6th to really be eye-opening. I'm going to be leading a bunch of tours. We're going to be talking about springs. This is what we make. Springs, not very exciting, but this one right here will go on a tractor that'll eventually cut some lawns. And then we have this. It looks like a pack of cigarettes. We make 3 parts for this. This is actually a new version of the EpiPen. And so any kid that goes into anaphylactic shock, all they have to do is pop this open, pop it on, and it'll save a life.
Wow.
We're making parts right here in Hamilton County that are affordable, unlike the EpiPen. So, again, October 6th, Manufacturing Day. I left you guys all a flyer. Thank you.
You're making us excited about it. You may see some skill work in this.
Are you going to the schools, are you taking these flyers to the schools, are you talking to the principals, what are you doing?
Honestly, I'm working 9 to 5, 9 to 6 every day. Let me know who I need to talk to, and I'll talk to them. I mean, I'll talk to principal right here. I'll talk to all you guys. I'll talk to Zach. I'll talk to whoever I need to talk to.
That's what you want to do.
Thank you.
And you'll put it on social media.
All right.
Thank you so much. Next, we have approval of the minutes for the August 17th, 2017 regular session. Need a motion, second?
To approve.
Second.
Vote please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate? Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Okay, next we have approval of the consent agenda. Okay, motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is where
Thank
they
you.
would
Full,
pull
pardon me?
items, this is where they would pull items.
Right. Anything to be full? If not, to the vote.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate? Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Thank you so much. Administrative business items. Justin Witt, STEM school lease agreement.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Hollander. This is a lease agreement that we cleaned up from our last meeting. Actually went back with Scott Bennett and Chattanooga State, cleaned it up, and actually they actually wanted to extend the lease to June 30th of 2022.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question, how much are we leasing it for, there's no,
I believe it's 30,
is that for
it's on the agreement. 30.
2008,
Yeah, per
22
month. Yeah,
33,000 a year?
30, about
Okay, so it's
33.
not gonna go up during any of that time?
No, it's the same amount.
Same
Yes,
amount.
that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Good question. Anything else? Call for vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Revised schedule of sessions. Ms. Ford?
Yes, it was determined that, Uwell High School's graduation was on our May meeting date, so we've moved it to May 24th, which is the next Thursday, so it'll be the 4th Thursday in May instead of the 3rd.
I definitely want to be at that graduation. So, if I may, I'll make the motion to do that.
Okay.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testament?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Chattanooga Preparatory School Charter Contract, Dr. Zach Brown.
Chairman Highlander, thank you. What you have before you is the Chattanooga Preparatory School submitted their charter application back at February 14th, 2017. It was approved by the board on April 27th. So what you have in front of you is the final The contract, the wording's been reviewed by Scott Bennett. The Hamilton County Administrative Team is recommending the board to approve the contract as written.
Move to approve.
Second,
A second?
discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Request for new positions, Chief of Staff and Community Engagement Specialist. Ms. Stacy Stewart.
Yes, Chairman Highlander, members of the board, these new position requests come from Superintendent Johnson's office. We are seeking to add immediately a chief of staff, associate superintendent. That is one position, just to clarify, that's not two. And you can see some of the essential functions listed on your memo there. Also a community engagement specialist position. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to entertain them.
We need the motion first, you know. Have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
Have discussion, please? Ms. Thurman?
Yes, I just want to clarify with everyone that this money for these positions, these may be new positions, but the money is coming from other positions that have yet to be filled, am I correct?
Correct. The chief of staff, we're using the director of innovation position, which has not been filled. And for the community engagement specialist, we had some internal shifts within the technology department, and we're going to be using those funds, reallocating those funds for the community engagement specialist position. One of the things I think that was identified on the listening sessions is that how we engage with our community, what we do from a communication standpoint needs to be improved. And we desire to improve it with urgency, and this is the first step of what I hope to be many to begin to build out a strong communication staff.
Yes, I've asked these questions before, but I just want to be sure the community
Right.
understood,
Question.
it's not cost neutral.
While I understand it's neutral this year, how will we, in the future, what is the pay difference in the director's position and the associate superintendent's position?
It's about 15%.
I mean, in dollars.
It would depend on the person, because it's based on the teacher scale. So it would depend on whether you hire someone with a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate and how much experience they have. So it could vary substantially based on who is hired.
Okay, the position that was vacated was how much?
I can get that information to you. I don't have it with me.
So the associate superintendent position would be higher than all the assistant
A
superintendents.
director level, yes, the director of innovation position was at what we call an index. It was a 1.70 index, which means the teacher, that wherever that person was on the teacher scale, you multiply by 1.70 to get their salary. So that's where the teacher scale is so important, where they land on there. The associate superintendent index is a 1.85.
Okay, that takes care of it, thank you.
And I can get you to the cent, the difference as soon as we can name the person.
I understand
Yeah.
the education experience,
Right.
I understand the index. It's a 15% increase, okay. And how will we sustain that in the future?
Yeah, right now we have more than enough savings in the shuffling that happened within the technology department. We had about $100,000 of savings. This position within the community engagement is roughly $50,000, and there's still another $50,000 in there. So we have the money to sustain it. I foresee us as we move forward with our budget and continue to make decisions. We'll continue to make shifts that are necessary to move our district forward, and so we'll do that with urgency because we've got to make some changes. And so this initial implementation of the chief of staff role really gives us another opportunity to organize around our work and be more efficient and effective in our communication efforts and give our department heads a line of direct connection as well as board.
And I do appreciate that, understand that, and I think a lot of the constituents want to know what they're getting for the buck, and so thank you very much. Do we have someone now that's community engagement in that title?
We have a one-person communication department, and so.
Which is not
And
sufficient.
so in the future, I foresee us trying to figure out a way, because I think one of the things that was captivating today in some of the presentations is the ability to tell the story. And we've got to be able to capture the stories. And so I foresee us moving forward, trying to figure out how we can be able to tell the story through video, and so that's a next step area that's out there that we want to do this in as cost neutral a way as possible. So we're just taking a broad look at the budget and trying to figure out how we might rethink some of our positions to get to where we need to be in the system.
And thank you for looking at it that way. We appreciate the one we've got, but I think you're right, that we can use a lot of help. Also, community engagement, we have one person doing that now.
We have that role.
Engagement.
Yes, sir.
Ask about the-
We have a one-person communication department.
Okay, my fault. And youth communication, I thought we had a community engagement person. Okay, thank you. Someone has that on the door, so, okay. Thank you so much. Okay. We have a motion, we have discussion, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes. Thank you so much. A request for use positions, Title IV. Stacey Stewart.
Yes, Chairman Highlander, members of the board, these position requests also will have no impact on the general purpose budget. The funding for these positions will come out of federal funds, Title IV. These three positions are all lead teacher positions that are designed to give targeted supports to specific areas that we haven't had targeted supports for before. STEM and innovation, related arts, and social studies.
And if I could just add, when we look at the data, because we want to make data-driven decisions, when we look at the data, we know that science has been an area that we struggled in this past year. We know social studies was an area that we struggled in this past year, and we heard in community listening sessions that the fine arts was an area that is important, and we believe it's an area that's important. And so Justin and Zach and Jill, we worked with Preston and the team and tried to figure out a way that we could maximize these funds to move the work of the system forward to hopefully, and hope in the strategy, but to definitely improve student outcomes.
Move to approve. Motion. Motion, please.
So moved.
Galloway made a motion.
Second.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? Thank you for the data-driven information. Vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Highlander?
Yes, thank you. Bus driver one, background check issues. Ms. Stewart, is that you, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Chairman Highlander, Superintendent Johnson, members of the board. There are two candidates for whom the administration denied employment as contracted bus driver based on our consistent practice. This was due to the applicant's failure to disclose criminal convictions or convictions in their background check. This failure to disclose violates state law, and two Hamilton County board policies also require that these individuals not be hired. Given their status as contractors, however, they have an option to appeal the administration's decision to the board, and both have expressed interest in doing so. Prior to tonight's meeting, I gave each of you information regarding their conviction or convictions, as well as each candidate's explanation as to why they failed to disclose. It's my understanding, and Scott can correct me, but I believe we'll need a roll call vote for each individual following the motion in a second. So let's begin with candidate number one listed on your sheet. That's Mr. Kirby, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
So we will need a motion first, will we not? Yes. Okay, a motion, please.
Okay, I will move to, I guess, to hire, Mr. Jackie Kirby as a contract bus driver. I will make that motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Okay, discussion, please.
Okay.
Would you like to comment, Ms. Thompson?
No, I saw what Joe's slide on in there.
Good, Ms. Wingate.
Okay, that's okay, I just don't know. I think some of the problem here doesn't lie so much with these applicants as it does what they were told in the courtroom. And I've spoken with attorneys and said this was very often what was told to some people when there were convictions done, and they tell the person, if you will do thus and so, whatever the punishment is, this will be taken off of your record and should not give you any more problems. Now, they tell you that, and I think in both cases, this has been told. I know people in my family, believe it or not, and some criminals in my family, and I know you find that hard to believe being from Daisy Mountain, but I will tell you I do. And when you tell those people who are lay people just like myself, who don't know the legal lingo, we will, if you do go pick up trash on the side of the road or whatever, we will take this off of your record and it won't be a problem any longer. Okay, now, I could get into legalese like we have with Scott about the difference in dismissals and expungements, and then you find out there's two different kinds of expungement, then you get into what is the meaning of is, and all of that kind of thing. I don't think it's so much a matter that these people willfully try to lie. I think that there is just a misunderstanding. I know this fella has been driving a bus, I thought it was 8 years, it says here 7, already with Durham, and he has had no problems whatsoever with Durham, has been an excellent bus driver. As a matter of fact, I've heard the route that he had before, the students would love to have him back. The reason that he had to quit driving with Durham is because after the Woodmore incident, this fella, he was involved in a wreck that was not his fault, by the way. A car hit his bus. After he was directed to come on in front of Brandon High School, a car hit his bus. And therefore, but when Durham got rid of anyone that had an accident after the Woodmore incident, he was let go from his job. So it's, sometimes it does you a lot of good to know all of the facts. And I think that Mr. Kirby is actually, Jackie, I think he is the kind of person that we want driving our students. He's proved himself in the last 7 years. Like I say, the route he was taken off of, the people still want him back on their route. The kids really liked him, and he had a very difficult bus route to run, but the children loved him and he loved them. And so I think this is the kind of person we want driving the bus. And like I say, that's been 19 years ago, and some people change a lot in 19 years. And like I say, I don't believe that, like I said, he wasn't a problem for him to get with Durham. And some people are told after 10 years this is taken off their record. I mean, some attorneys even tell some of their clients that. So, sometimes if it's not on the record, they don't want to bring it up. So I make that motion.
We've got a motion, the second, we're under discussion. Mr. Galloway, I believe it's next. I'll get everyone, I'm not sure who's next.
Yes, my question would be for Mr. Bennett, and I agree with Ms. Thurman, people make mistakes, and obviously this person's overcome it and has done well. But from HR's perspective, they don't always have all the information. They do have in black and white, there's the documentation is not. So my question, Mr. Bennett, is if there's no documentation, and if we approve to do this, which I'm for doing, where do we stand legally if something goes wrong then, and there's supposedly this is on the record and there's no documentation?
Well, when you say no documentation, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, obviously they didn't provide documentation that it had been expunged. They just said that they didn't have a record. Even though I understand they were just maybe misinformed, it could have been a mistake. But if there's nothing to show it, I'm just asking where we stand.
And we have a precedent from June where, as I understand it, the gentleman was told explicitly that it was being expunged, and in view of what was happening in that situation, it probably was supposed to have been expunged. Judge Moon passed away, and he left a number of files unaddressed. My understanding is that when that was called to the attention of Judge Poole, in that case, it was immediately expunged. And so at the time that the board was looking at it, it had already been taken care of. In this situation, and I'll just speak to them one at a time, this situation, my understanding from the records provided by HR is that there's a conviction of, well, there are two convictions. The explanation was that he thought it had been expunged. He got expunged and dismissed mixed up. Well, dismissed means you haven't been convicted. That's the exact opposite of having a record. It means that you actually weren't convicted. And so, state law here it's kind of specific. It says, I'm gonna leave out some bunch of gobbledygook. Any person seeking employment is required to make a full disclosure of any prior criminal record and any prior dismissals from employment for cause. A person who violates this subsection commits a Class A misdemeanor. The person shall not be employed, and if employed, despite a violation of this subsection, shall forfeit office. That's what your policy is based on. And there's not unless there's an extenuating circumstance, like maybe you had in June, an employee wouldn't even be eligible for consideration. Now, what makes this different here is that these folks are independent contractors who are under contract with the board. So, whereas the administration has its hiring rules and they're very clear and they're a function of this board's policies, we don't really have protocols in place for these particular contract bus drivers. Y'all are guided by law, you're guided by board policy, and that's where you are. So when you say there's not a record, the record that we have would render him unemployable if he were applying for an in-house position. Thank you.
So are we liable if we hire him and he has an accident?
Well, the convictions, and actually Mrs. Thurman makes a really good point. This is one of these interesting little pieces where, because the state only gives local education agencies the ORI accounts, we're the ones who have to conduct the background checks. You are aware of information that you would not otherwise be aware of if this were a truly independent contractor in your garden variety sense. So, because your drivers do not have their separate accounts and they can't run these background checks, it defaults to you. That's a service that y'all provide for them. And so y'all have this information. So to the question, so that answers Ms. Thurman's point. They're not your employees, but do they fall into the category of any other person having in any way the custody and care of students of the public education institutions in this state? Yes. We don't hire them. The contractors are supposed to, but they are also supposed to follow your policies with regard to who gets hired. It's one of those things that because this is a new animal, we kind of need to work out, quite frankly.
Okay, do we do the same thing with the janitors?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, actually, before I say,
I started to say they hire their own employees, they do their own background checks, am I correct?
The district holds the ORI number, that's the identification number that tracks the TBI, FBI results, and they are tracked to us. Now, we turn them over to to ABM and to Durham, and they make filings.
Okay, well, I will tell you this, and if it wasn't for throwing some people under the bus, I could raise the information, but I happen to know that there are some people that have been hired in this school district, and there were some things on there, and they were just told if they would clear it up on their application, and then the applications were taken and those people were hired. I know that for a fact. So, I'm just saying, sometimes they're allowed, if they marked no and then they found it out later, and then they were allowed to go back and say, well, yeah, well, this is what happened, and then, okay, it was clear. And I guess I'm just having a real hard time trying to figure out why the people that we need the most in this school system, which are bus drivers, because I heard the fellow doing the bus thing earlier, he said Durham is not able to find enough bus drivers, so all of their supervisors stuff are out driving buses. I mean, these are people who are willing, who have been good employees. Why are they not given the same consideration of some other people that are allowed to come in and maybe redo their applications and say, okay, it's been cleared now, so we understand what was going on, and so it'll be okay. I guess I just don't understand why it seems to be the bus drivers that seem to have this problem, that no matter what they do, it's no go for them. Like I say, these people could go to work for Durham tomorrow. Matter of fact, one of them, they would love to have Mr. Kirby back. So it's not like they're not going to be driving our kids. because he already has been driving our kids and doing an exceptional job. So I guess that's my point.
And the only thing I can answer to that, Ms. Thurman, is I don't know what his application looked like with Durham. Maybe he disclosed it to Durham. That's a piece of information I don't have. To the question about liability,
Well, the Department of Motor Vehicle usually just goes back 10 years, and I think that's another problem that they have, that usually they just, when they have to get their driving record, it just goes back for 10 years.
well, to the question of liability, the convictions here do not speak to his ability to drive a vehicle. So I'm not going to say that has any kind of bearing. All I can do is I can tell you what the law says. And I've done that. This is, again, a unique situation, but, and yet it's not, because we do have vendors that we put through the same process of screening them. It's just that because there has been this long process of the administration vetting those vendors, very rarely do those vendors file an appeal with the board. Probably several times a year in her packet, Ms. Childs mentions that some food service vendor is being debarred and is not allowed to bid. In my time of working with Hamilton County, I don't think anyone's ever appealed that debarment to this board. So this is new because these people have gone from being employees to now contractors, and so we're working out the process flow, plain and simple. That's why we're having these issues. I can also tell you that on many other occasions, the administration has said, you haven't disclosed this, we're gonna withdraw the offer of employment. I have no idea how many times a year that happens, but it's more than a couple.
Double digits.
Mr. Wingate, I believe you're next. I'll get everyone, I'm not sure of the order, I'll get everyone.
Well, I just wanted to say, in looking at this today, this afternoon, and I actually did talk to Mr. Bennett for a little bit. We're in a place that this board hasn't been in a long time, particularly when it comes to transportation, because now we've made a decision to go more in the direction of employing bus drivers and vendors. To be more technical, and so we're going to have to develop some protocols so that we don't keep revisiting this at some point. I mean that's just the bottom line. That I don't know. I would just like to see us have some discussion about that. I know that doesn't help us for tonight, but we're going to have to do that. Otherwise, we're going to keep coming back to this over and over again. Because we do have the authority, and vendors can reach across to us to appeal, and so we're going to have to get, we're going to have to get some more concrete stuff here, I think, most definitely.
Mr. Tesman.
I mean, I mostly wanted to comment on something very similar to what Mr. Wingate said, but basically, I'd like to ask that we, go back and review this policy as a policy committee, and that we really think through this a little bit more. To me, this situation is a precedent, directly the same as the incident from a few months ago. So I just think that, like what Mr. Wingate said, we just need to spend some time reviewing this policy and thinking through it a little bit better.
So you're advocating,
Yes, I would like to ask that we have a policy meeting, if the policy chair agrees as well, just like, at the retreat? I don't think we're getting anything else added to that agenda.
Yeah, was my opinion also, that somehow we need to look at this policy, and I can understand how, like with the next one, ladies, this was 29 years ago. Yeah, and, she was a teenager at the time. I don't know about any of you guys, but those things happen to people. And so, I think we need to look at that policy, maybe put some clarification in there. At any time in your life, over the course of your adult life, from 18 years on Do we have to spell it out like that?
Well,
That's
and
what
let
it
me
is.
speak to that, Mr. Testerman, when we first went online with our application system, which has been over a decade ago probably, we recognized pretty quickly that it was happening way too often that someone would fail to disclose a past conviction. And those questions actually begin about halfway down the background check page. So we actually, in our application, put a page break with bold print paragraph saying, basically, disclosing a conviction will not preclude you from employment. So please disclose anything that you think might show on a background check, because failure to disclose could preclude you from employment. And my classified director, Director Askins, whenever she makes a job offer and it's accepted, she says to them, now, before you go get fingerprinted, go back to your application, put anything in there that you think could show up, because failure to disclose could be a bigger issue. So we have taken, we've seen the problem, and with people saying, well, that was so long ago, that we've taken steps to remind and remind and remind.
Ms. Jones?
So, I guess this is a legal question for Scott or Stacy or somebody. Because there's nothing in place, and we're kind of treading a whole lot of murky water, seems like to me. Do we have to have, like, I guess how pertinent, well, I know this is pertinent, but how pertinent is it to decide before we get a policy? I don't know, like, is this legal, is what I wanna know.
Well,
Like, if we vote to say we're gonna override this like we, with the other situation, what is the ramification for this?
Well, you'd be in violation of a state statute.
Okay.
I mean, when we say that this is murky, the only thing that's murky is the process whereby somebody can appeal to the board. The standards are the same. The state statute is exactly the same whether the person is hired by the board or hired by the administration. The board policies are exactly the same whether hired by you or hired by the administration. The only issue that leaves us kind of wondering what to do is the process whereby someone can appeal what they think is an arbitrary decision in the vetting process to the board. That's the only question.
And they're appealing to us simply because we vet them, right? Because they're not, like Rhonda said, technically our employee, correct? Yes and no, or no?
Correct.
So if we didn't vet them and we didn't do the background check and the owner of the bus did all of that, then whatever happens is liability to them in that
Correct.
case, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I think we should look at policies maybe to figure out where the liability should lie.
Well, and understand when we talk about liability, if what we were talking about here was something that happened last year, driving without a license, drag racing on 153, running moonshine while high as a kite, I would have no problem telling you, for the love of sanity, don't hire this person, irrespective of whether they disclosed it. So I want to be clear that there's liability and then there's guidance from the General Assembly. The guidance from the General Assembly here is if you are being employed in any capacity where you have custody and control of kids, you must disclose prior convictions. Failure to do so is in fact a violation of the law, and it can result in your termination. That's what the General Assembly has spoken to us about.
I know some people in the General Assembly would have to quit, right?
If I could say, it is a dilemma, it is a dilemma. I say, I've known the second, like Rhonda's known the first candidate's family, I've known, my family's known the second candidate's family since the Depression. And, you know, the person made a mistake as a teenager was, you know, sometimes as teenagers, we don't understand all the ramifications of what happened. And then, you know, 30 years later, we might guess we barely remember that foolish mistake. But yet, on the other hand, we have legal problems. So I agree, we need to get a policy. We have a wonderful policy, Chair, that can straighten this thing out for us. and I'm sure she'll call a meeting very soon. So I believe we're asking that we postpone until we have a decision, is that correct? Or are we gonna vote on it this evening?
Listen, we have to get some kids to school. These people, well, they might have a bus driver on some of these buses. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
vote and then have a policy. Okay, so, okay, so we have, correct, help me remember this, if we have the motion and second?
Motion to hire.
Motion to hire and second. Okay, are we ready to call for the vote? Ms. Robinson, you ready to
Yes.
call for the vote?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
abstain.
Mrs. Lennon,
Abstain.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Testerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Mr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairman Highlander.
Yes, with the provision that we look at the policy. Except for the first candidate only?
Yes, our motion carries, 7-0-0.
Okay, let's have we have a motion now for the second candidate.
Yes, I will make a motion for Andrea. I have spoken with her quite at length about why she did not do this, and like I say, here again, it's a problem in the court when they say, you know, if you do this, in 10 years this will be off your record, it shouldn't cause you any more problems. And like I said, I don't know anybody that self-incriminates. I mean, why bring it up if you think it's gone? And like I say, their motor vehicle record only goes back 10 years, not there. It's been, how many years ago is that? 29 years ago, something like that. It's been a long time ago. Do what? That's right, back when you were born.
And mine too.
Back when we were very young. I'm not, I wasn't. But anyway, so I will make the motion to hire Miss Andrea Watkins. Like I say, something happened when you were a teenager, and like I say, who knows the law when you're a teenager? And she hasn't had any other run-ins with the law since then. So, like I say, I just don't have a problem at all hiring her to be a bus driver.
And then second, please.
Dr. Highlander, may I make a point of clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
I just need to clarify this, and just for full disclosure, I don't know, Ms. Watkins, I hope she will be a wonderful driver for us. But I just have to clarify, when I read her explanation that says I'm definitely not that crazy teenager, I was a crazy teenager, and I think 15, 17, 18, she was closer to 21 than she was to 20 when this occurred. So and we keep throwing around teenager, I just need to clarify that, and I don't expect it to change the outcome, but it's important for me that you hear that.
Okay, good, thank you, ma'am. Do we have a second?
Second.
And Mr. Galloway, hey, any more discussion before we call for vote? Vote, please.
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Abstain.
Mrs. Lennon,
Abstain.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Testerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Mr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairman Highlander.
Yes. And I'll say Roy X and I are the only two that have nothing to hide from our teenage years.
That's right.
Yeah. Next we have the McRae Balanced Leadership Proposal.
Chairman Highlander, members of the board. Dr. Johnson repeatedly reminds us of the urgency of great leaders and great teachers. We select a leadership program that will both increase leadership capacity and increase student achievement throughout the district. We believe McRae can help us move forward. After our leaders going through this program, we believe that we'll all have a common vocabulary, enabling leaders to work together with quality, fidelity, intensity, and actually have consistency throughout the district. This proposal is for the McRae Balanced Leadership and Trainers program. The total cost of the proposal will be taken from Federal Title II Part A funds at a requested one at the amount that's stated.
I'll just add, so just for a point of awareness, really focusing on 3 areas: culture, focuses in on creating a clear focus, focuses in on managing change. But I think the most intriguing portion of this is the capacity that will be built internally. And And so we'll be able to train trainers that will be able to deliver training for forever. And so, the initial investment, there's a small yearly investment that you make, but once we jump in, we're able to have certified trainers that are able to deliver training for the rest of the time.
Okay, remember you said trainers to train forever, so every year I don't wanna see this brought back and say we're gonna train more people. The people that have been trained need to train other people instead of us having to train the trainers for the next 20 years. We've been doing that forever.
Chairman Holler, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Well, let's get the
I'm
motion
sorry.
in a second, and then we can go. Is that correct, Mr. Bennett? Motion in second, please.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, second. Now we can have it. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I don't know who Dr. Johnson or Zach can answer this. Is this replacing other leadership training? Like, I mean, is this replacing PLA? Is this?
No, sir. PLA is still part of our training mechanism, but this allows, we have over 150 administrators when you think about principals and assistant principals. And so ultimately, PLA right now, we have 16 members in that, but we have a vast number of administrators. And also, this allows us to build that capacity. So we, continue to move teachers to leaders. We have this, we have a framework that we're going to work from.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
No.
Mr. Wingate?
Yes.
Chairman Hollander?
Yes. Now we have to vote for the resolution. If I may ask, point of privilege, are we voting for the general resolution as Dr. McQueen has put it, or the one I presented, or just the fact that we will resolve to work with them? Which of those three? Could we?
Pleasure of the board, Mr. Chairman.
Pleasure of the board. Okay, so we have two resolutions, right? One that I presented with the help of Mr. Bennett. We have one that Dr. McQueen presented, and either would show, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bennett, either would show an interest in proceeding with the partnership.
That's correct. The material differences, the state resolution is really pulled straight from their ESA application. It really speaks to a shared governance model. The state's application for ESA grants discuss the ASD framework that already exists, but also committed to developing an alternative to the ASD framework, which they refer to simply as the shared governance model. It does not spell out at all what that looks like. And so this resolution, which is pulled largely from that application, leaves the details to be determined. Obviously, this board has had many conversations with the commissioner, and so you have a greater sense of what she personally wants to do with the shared governance model. And so in response to that, the first draft that was pulled together, and Dr. Highlander certainly took a big stab at it. Dr. Johnson contributed, and I just added the whereas clauses. But it really speaks to some of the concerns that I know that this board has had in some of the conversations that have been going on now for several months. It speaks to funding, it speaks to the governance model. There's a lot to be said for going ahead and discussing these specific issues, but likewise, there's a lot to be said for the commissioner's approach, which is leave the approval at a high level of concept and engage in some discussion over the next weeks and months to see what that shared governance model really looks like. It's a pleasure to work.
So if we work with Dr. McQueen's model, then we would still have time later to come back and discuss the financial and the governance issues at future time. Is that correct?
Well, actually, under both of these, it's really about starting the conversation. The one that we have put together assumes that the conversation's been ongoing and that there are some things that we already believe are near and dear to the concerns of this community. The commissioner's draft is again much more high level and it doesn't assume anything. Now, again, because y'all have had the conversations with the commissioner, you know what her opinions are about governance and things like that. As I think a couple of y'all have pointed out, and I believe as Laura pointed out, it really is going to depend upon what the General Assembly does. And so both of these presuppose that there's a lot of work to be done at the General Assembly level. I did assume from something that was said that the state probably wants to start working on a contract or an MOU now, which will probably shape legislation. I think Mr. Testerman maybe suggested that could happen. But neither of these commits you to a particular path. It starts the conversation. It's really, do you want to start it at this level or do you want to start it at this level? And that's the pleasure of the board.
As Ms. Robinson said, we need to start a conversation. Ms. Robinson?
Okay, regarding the two resolutions, has Commissioner McQueen seen the resolution that we put together? Because, okay, so her resolution that she sent back to us today, right, is basically a counter resolution. What I'm trying to get to is what's more productive to vote on, because at the end of the day, all we need to do is really just make the statement whether or not we're gonna move forward. And so I'm just wondering, what she put together, was it in response to our resolution? Therefore, is it even productive to vote on the resolution that we put together?
Actually, I don't think she had seen ours at the time that Ms. Ballard, the attorney for the Department of Education, sent me theirs. All theirs is it's pulled from the ESA application. It's very, very general. It's not a counter resolution. It starts the conversation farther back in the timeline than where we actually are. That's the best way to put it. In terms of what's more productive, there's a lot of talk to be had going forward regardless. And so I don't know that it makes any difference. I think what matters more is what does this board want to say.
I think I'm gonna make the motion that we vote on the resolution you did because it does have the financial piece in there and kind of gives us a way out in that way. If they want to negotiate that out, we can negotiate it out. Does anybody else have a problem with that?
I'll second that, I think that's.
Motion and second.
Well,
Discussion.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I do wanna hear Dr. Johnson's viewpoints on both, resolutions, just to make sure we're getting his voice in this.
Yeah, well, I think both resolutions, the bottom line is the board gotta make a decision. I think we all have had conversation with the commissioner in regards to where things are from a governance standpoint, and I think ultimately, everybody on the board knows where that is. I think initiating the conversation is what we need to decide to have tonight, and so, I think there's a lot to be said about taking it from a high level and continuing to have conversation. I think, Rich had some powerful comments, to say in regards to conversations with legislation, things of that nature. I think those conversations are appropriate, but I think there's something to be said about attacking it from a high level, and then working through the process, and seeing how things come out going forth. Well, I think when I look at the two in comparison, it's at a higher level. It doesn't get us caught up in the details that are gonna, I don't want to say bog things down, but what we're agreeing to is to converse, and to discuss what partnership could look like.
Okay, then I withdraw my motion. Let's just get this done.
Do you wanna re-motion?
I will withdraw my motion, and if this is the will of the board to go to the second with the state resolution, that's fine with me.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll motion to move forward with the, state's draft of a resolution.
Get a second, please.
Second.
Discussion. Vote, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Lennon?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Testerman?
No.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Mr. Wingate,
Yes.
Chairman Highlander.
Yes, with discussion in the future. And this is not binding, this is simply the fact that we want to work in negotiations with them. We want to have a conversation, I agree. Events, do we have legal services report?
So that's
That's just
information only.
Information only. Okay, events and announcements. Anyone, we have, Dr. Johnson, you have an announcement for us about tomorrow evening and Saturday morning, do you not, sir?
Yeah, just so we'll be having a retreat. We'll spend a lot of time together Friday and well, Friday, tomorrow, and Saturday. And looking forward to the time together.
And if I may say to the general public, a retreat is not vacation, it's work time.
And just so everybody knows, yeah, we will have supper and we will have a continental breakfast. So that will be provided.
Dr. Highlander, can I give this to
Oh,
Carissa?
I cannot believe I forgot that. Yes, ma'am, I've asked Mrs. Lennon to give an award, if she would please, and including a pen. So.
I can't find the pen, I got lost. We went to the TSBA conference, Mr. Galloway, Mr. Hodge. I know. But we were very proud that one of Hamilton County, board members received an award. And, so you received a certificate of achievement to Carissa Mosley, so I would like to pass this and give it to her.
Here, here. It's not nearly as long, Roy, as the one they had with coaches downtown central office at 3 a.m. about 45 years ago. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.